to downtown St. Louis. It's game number 2 between the Padres and the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals in first place, 65 wins in the National League Central Division. Last time out, it was a Sunday afternoon for Joel Pinheiro. Really gutted through this start. The Cardinals would win it 7-3, 7 innings for Joel, 9 hits, but no walks. Pinheiro now looks for another win here tonight.
Some of the guys came up to me and said, you know, that was a huge win, and not only for us, but for you, because you didn't start out as good, and the way you settled down and kept us in the game was huge. And I took that, you know, deep in the heart. It's like, you know what, these guys know that I'm not going to give up no matter what happens. So just go hard every pitch.
It's great to hear that. Rick Horton, Dan McLaughlin, Rick filling in for Al Raboski, and certainly that's what you want to hear. A guy saying, hey, maybe my stuff isn't the best, but yet I'm going to gut it out.
It's kind of words that you hear from your best pitcher, your ace. Cardinals have a couple aces in Wainwright and Carpenter, but Pinheiro's been very good himself as the third starter for the Cardinals, and I like, Dan, the way he's finishing games. I'm not sure we saw enough of that out of him last year, but this year he's finishing batters, finishing innings, and going deeper into ball games.
All right, it's game number 2 tonight, the Cardinals and the Padres. When we come back, we'll talk about this Redbird offense. Some of the unsung heroes outside of Albert. That's next. Albert Pujols hitting .327 this year, 38 home runs, over 100 RBIs. But, Ricky, it's not just about Albert. There are other guys in this lineup that have really contributed, in particular, this homestand. This is our Toyota keys to the game.
Colby Rasmus, a big day yesterday. He's proven he can be a streaky hitter, 5 for 13 this homestand. Holiday, a big hit yesterday. And Skip Schumacher has been as consistent as anybody at the top of the Cardinal lineup all year long.
I can't wait to put Ricky on the spot. He has to choose between either Chris Carpenter or Adam Wainwright. Who is your Cy Young, Ricky? Think about it. You've got about 2 minutes. That's next. Here we are on August 15th, getting set for baseball, and right now, these are our candidates for the National League Cy Young Award. Of course, a couple of Cardinals in there, but we'll start with Johan Santana.
Santana was my preseason pick, Dan. He's a guy, to me, is the #1 candidate every year. He's just such a tough left-hander, but he's playing on a team where it's going to be tough to pick up a lot of victories.
It's a great story. Jason Marquis returned to St. Louis as an all-star, and all of a sudden, he's in that conversation.
Big dark horse candidate to me because he plays on a team that doesn't get a lot of attention, but the Rockies have played very well under Jim Tracy. He needs to get 20 wins to be considered.
I would think that the national favorite right now, even though he plays on the West Coast, Tim Lincecum, last year's winner.
He'd be my favorite. He needs a haircut too, but he's got the best stuff of any pitcher in the National League. He'd be the odds-on favorite as far as I'm concerned. He's just got electric stuff.
So Ricky says no to the guy with long hair, yes to the guys with short hair, like Matt Cain.
Well, I like this guy too, and a great 1-2 punch in San Francisco. We've got a good one here in St. Louis, but these two guys are very, very tough back-to-back. You get them in the playoffs, San Francisco could be a contender.
I love looking at your criteria for this. Long hair guys out, short hair in. Dan Herron, long hair.
He's kind of in the middle, though, and Dan Herron, former Cardinal, has really had a rough start for the second half of the season, but he seems to have figured it out, Dan. And Dan Herron, to me, is a winner. He's got very good stuff, doesn't walk anybody. Again, he's not playing on a very good team, though.
Now, the Florida Marlins have gotten themselves into contention in the National League East, and Josh Johnson is leading the way.
Oh, to be young and throwing mid-90s. Wouldn't that be nice? Josh Johnson on a team that's playing much better, and so perhaps he is the dark horse candidate as well.
Now you take a look at the Cardinals candidates, Chris Carpenter and Adam Wainwright. Is there a better 1-2 punch right now? Don't look at the numbers. Is there a better 1-2 punch in the National League than these two?
I would say there's an equal 1-2 punch when you look at the Giants, but the Cardinals certainly don't have much of a problem when you throw Carpenter and Wainwright out in a 2-game series. You expect to win both games. I think the Giants do too with Lincecum and Cain. Carpenter, to me, has got a better chance than Wainwright because of his recognition, and he may reel off 6 or 7 straight victories, as good as he is.
He is 12-3 this year. Go West, young man. We'll take a look at the National League West when we come back on Fox Sports Midwest. National League West, it's led by the Dodgers and Joe Torre. The Cardinals took 3 of 4 from L.A. when they were in St. Louis. Everybody remembers that play by Manny Ramirez. But the question is, Ricky, can the Dodgers hold on?
Well, they've been good all season. What a great start this club had under Joe Torre. They were scoring a lot of runs. Their pitching's very good. They've had a couple of injuries. Colorado, one of the hottest teams in the National League over the last month, and San Francisco with those 2 starters. I think that's going to get a little closer as we get towards September. The Dodgers are going to have to work to keep those teams from catching them.
Can Colorado do it? Can they come back in that division? We'll talk about it tonight. They are 5 games out. LA at 69 wins this season. San Diego and St. Louis. First pitch coming up. Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by Bud Light. With just the right taste, it never fills you up. The difference is drinkability. By Steak and Shake, famous for steak burgers. By Auto Tire. For the lowest prices in town, we shop the competitors so you don't have to. By Chevy. See your Mid-America Chevy dealers or shop and compare at stlchevy.com. And by the State of Missouri Tobacco Quit Line. Call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. Ricky Horton is here filling in for Al tonight. I'm Dan McLaughlin, and this is game 2 of this 3-game series between the Cardinals and the San Diego Padres. And no surprise tonight, as we are expecting over 40,000 once again. The weather has been ideal here in St. Louis and Mid-America, and a pleasant night for baseball. Cabrera, Eckstein, and Gonzalez, who has 30 home runs here in the first. Headley, Kuzmanov, Venable, Blanks, Hundley, and Stauffer. The Padres batting order here tonight, and they'll get a guy that sees a record that really isn't indicative of how well he has pitched, and you're talking about Joel Pinheiro.
Well, Pinheiro has won 10 games, but he could certainly have 12 or 13 if things would have gone his way early in the season. Pinheiro has had that great sinker, slider, and changeup, and he's really kept the ball in the ballpark. He's only given up 4 home runs all year long, and that is indicative of the kind of performance of Joel Pinheiro.
Here is our Domino's first pitch of the game, and it's taken for a ball, even though Cabrera wasn't even ready for it.
He doesn't have to be.
He was in the box, and he wasn't ready.
As long as the umpire and the pitcher are ready.
And that pitch is taken for a strike. How about the lack of home runs that he has allowed and the lack of walks? It's just been amazing this year.
Keeping the ball in the ballpark and keeping from walking hitters, you're going to win a lot of games that way.
Here's a 1-1 pitch on the outside corner. If he gets that call all night, he's going to have a good night too. Home plate umpire is Ron Kulpa. He's a St. Louisan. Jerry Meals at first, Mike DeMuro at second base, and Dale Scott, the crew chief, he is over at third. So a look at Ron Kulpa, the home plate umpire, and here comes a 1-2 pitch by Pinheiro. That's hit out of play. Or will it? And it will get out of play, as Matt Holliday was over trying to make the catch. And I was talking with Dave Duncan the other day. It's not just throwing his sinker time and again, talking about Pinheiro, but also his breaking ball. They feel that his breaking ball has been a lot sharper this year.
Tony La Russa's made that comment a number of times too, Dan. He does not like to just think of Pinheiro as a one-pitch pitcher. Really, the sinker is where he's getting the outs, but unless you're throwing a wrinkle in there every once in a while, they'll start sitting on it. And that's happened in a couple games where guys have gone down to get that sinker. So what happens there? You should throw it lower. Don't stop throwing it, just throw it lower.
So for a fan out there watching tonight, they hear us say, well, he's throwing a sinker. How does someone throw a sinker?
Well, you're really using finger pressure more than anything else to throw a sinker, and you're just pulling on the side of the ball on the seams to get a little downward rotation. You have to stay on top to throw the ball down, and it really just moves a couple of inches. That actually was a very good sinker there. The bottom just drops out of the ball because it has some downward spin on it.
It's amazing how a pitcher, and even anybody that's out there in the field, all they have to do is just grab a baseball, and how you put the pressure points and where you grab the seams makes all the difference in the world, as Pujols will take it and underhands to Pinheiro. You hear about the cutter, you hear about the sinker, you hear about a slider and a curveball, 12-6, a slurve, all the different things you can do.
And those are things, Dan, that are very difficult for a young pitcher. If you're talking about working with a little league age guy, and here's a great round of applause for former Cardinal David Eckstein. But if you're talking
last night,
and well deserved, and he appreciates it, no question about that. But a young pitcher is not going to be able to do all these things we're talking about. But when you get to this level, you've got to find ways to disguise pitches. You've got to find ways to make the ball move left and move right. And you also have to make sure the ball is moving late.
Isn't that the difference right now with AAA guys? And you talk to scouts and they say the difference between a AAA pitcher or player and a major leaguer now is huge, as opposed to when you were playing, where that difference wasn't all that great. But it's guys that don't swing at balls. It's guys that don't chase pitches out of the zone. It's pitchers that throw strikes, those kind of things.
I heard you and Al talking about it, and I couldn't agree more that at one point the big jump was A-ball to AA, and now the big jump is AAA to the big leagues. Used to be if you were an A-ball and you showed signs of being a prospect, once you got to AA, you were close. Now, a lot of guys in AAA, maybe not prospect type players, but they're just roster fillers.
Here's a 3-1 pitch, and Eckstein yanks one foul, 3-2. I don't know about you, I was so disappointed to see David Eckstein leave St. Louis because, as we've talked about many times, a fan favorite and such a key part of very good teams.
And your heart wants him to be here.
Yeah.
I mean, forget whether he's a good player or not. How do you not root for David Eckstein?
And a rare walk by Pinheiro. So a 1-out walk issued to Pinheiro, and it brings in Adrian Gonzalez. First baseman has had a great year, hitting .268 at the start of play tonight. 30 home runs. He's driven in 70 RBIs. 30 home runs, and half of his games being played at Petco Park, which is known as a pitcher's park. We'll see that next week. I would think that if the Padres wanted to spend money, that if you're an available pitcher out there, you say, well, I got a chance to go make a bundle of money. I'm in a pitcher's park, and oh, by the way, I get to live in San Diego. It's not a bad deal.
Well, you definitely would get the brochure along with the contract offer of the beaches and maybe a nice picture of La Jolla and say this, you could live right here.
Wouldn't that be beautiful? Huh?
Yeah, but if they said your lineup was only going to give you 1.2 runs a game,
different story.
And you might go 4-18, but you'll have a nice view of the ocean. I don't know.
I mean, outside every 5th day, you're going to love it. Don't worry about the run support. Just worry about where you live. Now, you lived in Los Angeles briefly, but you were with the Dodgers. Where'd you live out there?
I lived in Glendale.
Okay.
And it was just about a 10-minute commute to Dodger Stadium, and really maybe 15. But it's hard to find a short commute to Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. There really isn't any. But liked our time in L.A., but certainly enjoyed being a Cardinal much more.
And you see, with runners on, he's allowed those 4 home runs. He goes to 3-0 here on Gonzalez, right down the middle. You might remember last night on 3-0, Gonzalez was swinging early in the game and hit into a double play. You wouldn't figure that with this lineup currently constructed the way it is, he's going to get a lot of pitches to hit. So if he's at 3-0, let him swing.
We're missing Brian Giles in this lineup. Doesn't have a lot of protection.
That's a rope into right center field, and a base hit. Eckstein chugging on his way around second to third base, first and third with 1 out. So base hit for Adrian Gonzalez, first and third, nobody out. A look at the Cardinals defense. Holiday, Rasmus, and Ludwig. Then DeRosa, Lugo, Schumacher, and Albert Pujols. And the battery tonight, Pinheiro and Yadier Molina. The Cardinals defense presented by Auto Tire.
Probably haven't talked big picture enough about how the Cardinals defense has improved since the early part of the season. A lot of errors early on, and some of those were errors of aggression, but I think this team has really settled down defensively, and I think a lot of that is the play up the middle.
And that means you're talking about Skip Schumacher, one of the guys.
One of the guys. Skip Schumacher's done such a great job of adjusting to that position, but I think Brendan Ryan has brought a new element to the shortstop position. He's making some great plays, and Lugo's been, I'd say he's been okay as a shortstop as well. That's really not his best foot forward is his defense, but he's been okay.
0-2 as that hits the outside corner. There's a look at Brendan Ryan. I thought he was going to be good defensively. I had no idea he was going to be like this. I mean, he's playing with so much confidence, it's ridiculous. It's fun to watch. You see Headley hasn't really had great success in this spot with a runner at third and less than 2 outs. Ooh, he just missed.
We talked about the sinker. That's what Pinheiro is trying to do now. He needs that sinker because he needs the double play. It's very difficult to elevate that ball. And for Headley, his job is to try to drive the ball into the outfield right now. Cardinals playing him deep in left and right. Rasmus playing a fairly shallow center field.
And a gap in right center field, too. He shades him just a bit to the opposite way. The 1-2 pitch. Got him to reach. Ricky, you stay on that side of the plate, or for right-hander the other side, but you're able to paint. You're going to have success. You're going to get ground balls with that good sinker.
Very few times somebody going to take care of that, although we did see Gonzalez take Adam Wainwright off the left field wall with a pitch that was a great sinker down to the way. So these are still big leaguers. Every once in a while, they're going to hit a good pitch.
1 ball and 2 strikes with 1 out. And sliced out of play. The sun is a little bit of a factor. We are getting later into the summer. It's an early start tonight. But you see in right field and a little bit in center, but more so in right. It does become a factor for that right fielder with fly balls. And Ludwig has the sunglasses on tonight. Hard enough to play this game, and then you get the sun in your eyes. Time call.
Nothing aggravates a fan more. Well, I think they don't like the third to first move, but they also don't like players who aren't wearing sunglasses over their eyes.
There's a little broken bat, a floater. Schumacher can't come up with it. A base hit, and a run will score. So 1-0. The Padres take the lead on Chase Headley's 42nd RBI. Schumacher almost came up with a fantastic catch.
And Pinheiro had gone away, and then he comes in and he jams Headley. And if Schumacher was playing back normal position, he catches that ball, but he's moving in, cheating in, double play depth to try to turn 2 for his pitcher. So not able to come up with it. Great effort by Skip.
Brings in Kevin Kuzmanov, who has 15 home runs, 67 RBIs, and hitting .264 on the year. Third baseman for the Padres. Runners at first and second. I think the thing that would annoy a fan more than anything is when you pay for a green seat and then you sit down and all of a sudden Shaq sits in front of you. That would annoy me. I'd be a little frustrated.
It was great when Jerry Clinton was sitting behind him.
That was his seat. And Shaq decided to park right in front of him. So you got to either move to your right, you start to cramp up a little bit. It starts to hurt. It's not an easy thing to do. Watch a game behind Shaq. I don't care what game you're talking about.
It was fun to see him at the ballpark, though.
It was great.
That's just kind of fun to see how players react to somebody who's a big fly in another arena, whether it's a musician or a football player. They just can't get enough of those guys.
When you were here with the football Cardinals around over at Busch Stadium?
Oh, yeah. They used to work out sometimes before our games because it was AstroTurf.
Sure.
And they wouldn't have to worry about it hurting the field.
You see 26 pitches, and a rarity this season has been with those pitches already 12 balls thrown by Pinheiro. Kuzmanov in the air out to left. Holiday coming on. He'll make the catch on the run. For a big man, and I talked to Matt Holliday about this, he runs very well. I didn't realize how well he does run, but for a big guy, he's about 240 pounds. He runs very well.
Well, he gets a lot of stolen bases, so that's indicative of his speed. 14 stolen bases. He seems to be faster to me on the base pass than he is in left field. And I don't know whether that's just getting used to Busch Stadium and the sights and the background, but he certainly is fast first to third.
This is Venable, and you see that Pinheiro works from the first base side of the rubber. And maybe, Ricky, you can explain why a pitcher might want to do that.
Creates a better angle for his sinker if he's working from that first base side. It's going to create more of an angle as he tries to hit that outside corner. And it just feels like and looks like, from the pitcher's point, a better target to aim for as Yachty sets up, down, and away.
How about trying to get in on a lefty, too?
Well, that's part of it, too. It really depends. Some guys like the other side. To me, Trevor Miller would be the ideal guy to work from the opposite side because he's trying to create even more of an angle than he already has, lefty on lefty. And I think a lot of it's just your comfort level more than anything else.
Here's a 0-2 pitch in the dirt, and it gets by Molina. So runners will advance, but a throw to third. And everybody is safe as DeRosa saw about a 100-mile-an-hour sinker come his way. Can you imagine if Molina got on the mound, what he would be timed at? What do you how hard do you think he throws?
I bet he throws 90. I'm not sure he throws 98 like Jason Mott does. Mott made the good move from catcher to pitcher. I like Yachty right where he is.
I do. I'm not saying let's move him.
I thought maybe
I'm just saying I love the arm.
Starting your campaign there.
Boy, he can let it fly. So wild pitch, and it's 1 ball and 2 strikes here on Will Venable, their center fielder. Outfield is very, very shallow, in particular in center with Colby Rasmus. And a swing and a miss. Pinheiro gets his first strikeout of the night. And the Cardinals coming up in their half of the first. Padres strike first, 1-0. 1-0 San Diego. It was loud here at the ballpark with all the motorcycles that made their way around the outfield and the infield here at Busch Stadium. All the Harleys.
Jose Oquendo loving that.
He did. Schumacher, Rasmus, and Pujols here in the first. Holiday, Ludwig, DeRosa, Molina, Lugo, and Pinheiro. The Cardinals batting order here tonight, and they will face Tim Stauffer, our Marshall Wireless starter, and he has a record of 1-4.
He's had a couple of short stints in the big leagues. 6 starts, excuse me. He's 1-4 with a good ERA. Again, pitching on a team that does not give him a lot of run support. He's one of those guys, former first-round draft choice, that everybody is rooting for. He's had a lot of physical issues. Dan, when he was drafted in the first round out of the University of Richmond, he was in the middle of negotiation. They were ready to give him $3 million, and he said, I don't feel right about it. I've got a sore shoulder. I'm not taking that much money. And he settled for $750,000. But he is a man of character, and everybody in this organization rooting for him.
2 balls and no strikes on the Cardinal leadoff man, Skip Schumacher. Right down the middle for a strike, 2-1.
How many players would do that?
I probably would not be one of them, I can tell you that. $3 million, it's a lot of money you're talking about, and you're also talking about then all of a sudden you're kind of blackballed to an extent because people know that you have a history of injury.
Yeah, and he has had some history of shoulder problems. Does not throw overly hard. Basically fastball, slider, curveball, changeup, typical right-handed pitcher, not electric stuff by any means.
And the count runs full. Very nice article on Skip Schumacher in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch yesterday, in particular talking about his defense. But he really has played well for the Cardinals once again this year, and that is rolling foul. Kuzmanov gets that in foul territory.
I think that ball might have come back fair if he hadn't have charged that, and that would have been a base hit for Schumacher.
And Skip actually was slow out of the box, thinking that was a foul ball. One thing about the Cardinals this year, and I consider Skip Schumacher in this group, you talk about good people and trying to get guys with character. Skip is in that group, but they brought in a Holiday and a DeRosa and guys that fit in well right now in this clubhouse.
Well, people say character doesn't matter until you've got a team full of guys that don't have any.
Isn't that the truth? It means a lot because you're with each other 6 months of a regular season, and then if you get in the postseason, that's another 7. And that doesn't even count what you're doing in spring training for a month and a half or so. It could be about 8 months out of the year. There's a ground ball hit to second. David Eckstein there makes the play. Let's take a look at the defense behind the right-hander tonight. Headley, Venable, and Blanks. Kuzmanov, Cabrera, Eckstein, and Gonzalez. And the battery tonight for the Padres, Stauffer and Nick Hundley.
David Eckstein having a very nice year defensively. Only 1 error at second base. And that was a move that was bound to happen sooner or later. David Eckstein moving from short to second. He's handled it very well.
That's primarily where he has played his career prior to the big leagues. Another opposite field base hit for Colby Rasmus. He did this last night. That's good to see, Rick, him going the other way.
And we talked in the open about him being a streaky hitter. I remember that game in spring training where after struggling for a couple of weeks, he had a 5-for-5 game in spring training, and he just caught fire as there he kind of inside outs that pitch. Ball on the inside half, keeps his hands back, goes the other way. But I've noticed that he really does get streaky, and Colby's going in the right direction right now.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that if you have Rasmus hitting in the second spot in this lineup and he reaches with his speed, you know you could steal a base, but yet you have Pujols here at the plate. You don't want to have, especially when Holiday wasn't here, you don't want to leave first base unoccupied.
You're more apt to want to steal now than you were.
And I agree with that for sure.
Prior to Holiday.
Yes. Because it's either pick your poison, either Pujols or Matt Holiday or even Ryan Ludwig.
And Albert will hit into some double plays.
That's a strike to Pujols.
But I'm not sure Colby Rasmus fully knows how to steal bases at the big league level yet. He's got the speed to do it. He's got the ability to do it. He just doesn't have the experience yet.
Here's a 1-1 pitch to Albert. Give me the best base stealer you saw. You competed against Ricky Henderson. I'm sure Vince Coleman comes up to mind.
Ricky Henderson probably was the best. It's hard to say better than Vince Coleman. Vince Coleman was pretty unbelievable. Vince had pure speed, but Ricky Henderson would get great jumps. And what a great competitor Ricky Henderson was. And the problem with Henderson is he was a guy that could hit the ball out of the ballpark too. So when you pitch to him, if you walk him, it might be a triple. But if you just throw the ball over the middle of the plate, it might be a home run.
Sure.
He's just dangerous all the way around.
Here comes a 2-2 pitch to Albert Pujols. Instead, a check on Colby Rasmus over at first base. Just underway on this Saturday night here at Busch Stadium, and the San Diego Padres have a 1-0 lead on the Cardinals. And a big crowd, a sea of red once again tonight. Over 40,000 expected this evening. Almost hit Albert. He didn't sell it, did he?
No, he didn't. I thought it almost looked like it did hit it.
But you know what? I'd rather have him swing the bat.
That ball just kept riding in on Albert, and did it hit? No, it didn't. You know, that's a tough pitch to get away from when they throw at your midsection, because you can't move that. I mean, you can duck, you can put your arm out of the way, you can kick your leg out, but when they throw it in the middle of your body, where do you go?
Watch out here, 3-2. Ripped down the left field line, but foul. That's about where I was for the home run derby right there.
I went down to say hi to you down there. Did you get any balls hit at you?
No, but I was ducking a lot. I was anticipating certain pitches. If I could see they were going to be on the inside half, I'm ducking.
Now wait a minute, Dan.
I'm ducking.
You were not standing up and protecting the fans in your area. You telling me you were ducking?
Ricky, ducking. Goodbye. I'm out of the way. As Pujols hits it into deep right field. To the track, to the wall, and it's off the wall. Rasmus on his way to third. He will score, and this game is tied up at 1-1. Colby was already around second base and didn't even know if that was going to be caught or not. It goes off the wall, a deep fly ball off the bat of Albert Pujols, and we're tied up at 1-1, and Albert now has picked up RBI number 103.
Well, Colby went the other way. Albert goes the other way with power. This pitch up and away, drives it off the wall, almost caught at the base of the wall. And Colby Rasmus gets a good jump, and he barely stops. He sees where the ball is. He reads that it's going to be down. He knows he has a chance to get back to first base if he does catch that ball. Picks up Jose Oquendo quickly. And I love to watch Rasmus run the bases.
Me too.
Not steal bases yet, but run the bases.
It's like he's gliding out there.
Exactly.
A swing and a miss by Matt Holliday. We thought Matt Holliday would make a big impact in this lineup, but no one had any idea it would be like this. He has been remarkable in his time here in St. Louis, hitting close to 500, 4 home runs, and 20 RBIs. He's got 15 home runs on the season and 74 driven in. Overall hitting .323. Holliday rips it into left center field. To the track, to the wall, and it's gone. Albert Pujols is gone, and so did Mr. Holliday. Cardinals on top. His 5th as a Redbird. 3-1 St. Louis.
Holliday has been outstanding as a Cardinal. That pitch middle in, and he drives that ball into left center field. It's his 5th home run as a Cardinal. Picks that front leg up, generates power, still generates that power, and it still comes from the backside. And Albert Pujols knew it was out right away.
Albert at second base following his double, and he knew it. Take a look at Pujols.
There's Albert at second. Pitch from Stauffer. Albert celebrating already. He doesn't even have to look.
He's seen enough of those, huh?
He knows what a home run looks like.
3-1 St. Louis.
Well, the big home run hitters like Tom Lawless.
Oh, sure.
Albert Pujols, they know what a home run looks like.
There was nothing better than seeing Tom Lawless flip the bat in postseason play. That was against Frank Viola and the Twins. And, of course, it got out by what? Maybe a row or two?
A foot.
Leg kick. And I talked to Matt Holliday about this, and he said in many ways it's a trigger mechanism for him. This was yesterday we talked about it. You see the high leg kick. He worked out with Mark McGwire, Ricky, and he tried to get him, McGwire did, to get away from that. But Holliday said it's become so much a part of my swing in the professional level that I'm going to stick with it. So while he tried to get away from it, he's gone back to it. And he said also it helps him keep his hands and his weight back. So when he does have that transfer and decides to have that violent swing, and he's got a violent swing, he lets it loose with that leg kick.
Well, the concern would be that somebody hits like that might be vulnerable to off-speed pitches, because once you pick that leg up, you're committed to a certain timing, and if the pitcher throws the ball slower, you may get out front more often. But I don't see that with him. I see he's able to control with that leg kick, and how different a way of approaching hitting from Albert Pujols to Jim Edmonds, who would barely move their feet at all, to a Matt Holliday who is really violent with what he does with his lower half, but his head is still set, is still very steady.
Yeah, we talked about that last night, and the upper body strength that you have to have if you're going to be Pujols or Edmonds without that leg kick or much of a transfer. It's remarkable to see what these guys can do. Cardinals, first time up, they pick up 3 runs, 3-1 after 1. Top of the second, and it's 3-1 Cardinals. After the game, Cardinals Live is broadcasting from the Aqua Bar at Lumiere Place Casino. You can watch player interviews and Tony La Russa, plus Jim Hayes and Rick Horton break down the game. U.S. Cellular Cardinals Live after the game on Fox Sports Midwest. High leg kick of Matt Holliday, and it pays off with a home run. Holliday now with 5 home runs, and he has driven in 22 wearing the Cardinal uniform as he inches closer to 500. 500 and nearly 100 at bats here in St. Louis. That's unbelievable. And here we go, underway here in the top of the second. It's Blanks, Hundley, and Stauffer.
Hard to do much better than what Holliday's done.
You think about making a trade, everybody says, well, go out and make an impact trade. This has been an impact trade, no doubt. You got to give John Mozeliak, Ricky, all the credit in the world. I mean, there were only a handful of bats out there, and he got 2 of the best. At the time, DeRosa, and then obviously Matt Holliday.
When he got DeRosa, that elevated the Cardinal Nation's spirits, I think, and increased the level of interest.
And you mentioned the defense. DeRosa has played very well over at third base.
He really has. But I think the second deal, when Holliday was signed as well, I think John Mozeliak, I think that deal was a bit of a surprise to us. I mean, I don't think, we were sure that was going to happen. Certainly he'd been talking. They talked about Holliday in the offseason. In fact, there was a deal on the table, kind of a straight up deal with Ludwig and Holliday and money and maybe other players. They were talking about dealing Ludwig for Holliday in the offseason. And we still get to keep Ludwig, and now we have Holliday. So I think just an outstanding move, and Cardinal fans have been buying tickets by the drove since these 2 guys have been signed. So the impact has been economic for the Cardinals, but it certainly has raised the level of excitement here at the ballpark, because I think the Cardinals are in every single game, even when they get behind.
I'm going to put you on the spot and give you an unfair question here. As DeRosa makes the play on the run, does Matt Holliday re-sign in St. Louis?
I like to think that he would. I think it's certainly a question mark, because it's going to be a lot of money. And certainly everybody would love for him to sign. I think he would love to sign. But, when it comes down to it, a player has only a few decisions to make in his career that affect the length of his contract, and the club are the ones that have to actually come up with the money. So it's easy to spend somebody else's money.
The other thing, too, that comes into play is right there, Albert Pujols. And certainly you can't have a player making more than Albert. So then the question becomes, do you extend or at least approach Albert this offseason and say, here's what we're thinking. Where are you at? By the way, this is what we're going to do with Matt Holliday.
It could be perfect time to do that with Albert Pujols. But, whether or not the Cardinals want to do that, or Albert or Matt Holliday, I mean, it can be a distraction as well. When the team's playing well, at some point you just want to say, there usually was an old saying Dave Ricketts used to say, contracts are for talking about in the offseason. And he would chastise young players who would either complain about their contract or start asking for more, whatever, he'd say, hey, do that in November and December, not in the middle of the season. It'll affect your job.
I agree with that to an extent, but if you're John Mozeliak and you've got Matt Holliday, you don't want him to hit the open market. So you've got to put the best proposal you can out there and say, here's where we're at. We're going to start here. What are you thinking? And again, I agree with what you're talking about from a player's
point of view.
Yes.
Yeah, the ball's in John's court is the bottom line.
Well, if you're traveling and can't catch the Cardinals TV broadcast, catch all the action on your computer at MLB.tv. Catch over 100 live out-of-market games per week. For complete details, visit STLCardinals.com. That's where baseball is always on. I asked Matt yesterday, I said, are you sick of people coming up to you and asking you whether or not you're going to resign? And he just laughed, and he said, not at all. He said, it tells me people are interested in me. And he said, I love it here in St. Louis. It's been an unbelievable experience. My first at bat, he said, it was one of the great experiences I've ever had in baseball. And he said, I remember coming through with the Rockies middle of the week and 40,000 people at Busch Stadium. He said, I couldn't believe it.
Well, it's better than people coming up to you and saying, hey, when are you thinking about retiring? I mean, if everybody was asking you that question, you'd be a little sick of that question.
Sure. It's a lively crowd here tonight. Folks have been into it since this first pitch. No balls and 2 strikes. Here's Cabrera with 2 outs and a runner at first. You know, it's Brian McCann's birthday. Not that Brian McCann, our Brian McCann. He's 36, working in the truck tonight.
He is that Brian McCann.
For us.
Right. The other guy plays for the Braves.
Little bit low. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Cabrera. Grounded out to Pujols his first time up. 3-1 St. Louis. Cardinals picked up an RBI double by Pujols in the bottom of the first and a 2-run homer by Matt Holliday. We talked a little bit about the Cy Young Award just moments ago, and your concern gets to the point of seeing Carpenter maybe stealing votes from Wainwright and vice versa, but we forget the same may happen with Lincecum and Kane. 2 teammates in San Francisco. Adam was nodding his head in approval. He agreed.
I didn't know he was listening down there.
That's outside.
I really wish it'd be a little more objective and less subjective an award. I think it should be based on some combination of wins and winning percentage and losses and earned run average. And in fact, that's what I did my thesis on in college, is creating a statistic to predict Cy Young Award win. And I've got it at home if you'd like to read it.
I'll pass. Ludwig on the move, and he's over to get it. He'll throw into second base, and that'll hold Cabrera to a single. So first and third. Take a look at the pitch location if this was part of your thesis.
That pitch pretty much right down the middle, a little bit away, half. And that's one of the things we were talking about. Sometimes hitters know a pitcher's trying to throw sinkers. They'll go down and try to elevate the ball even if it's down in the strike zone, and that's what Cabrera did. He went down to get it.
You showed me a DVD the other day of your work as a doctor on the postgame show. Now that was something to see. Doctor work. It was well done.
Well, as I've been working my way towards the postgame set, people have been yelling to me, calling me doctor. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I mean, you had the gloves, you had the outfit, you had everything.
I had the clipboard,
the
plastic stethoscope.
And your glasses went down to the end of your nose. That's what I like.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that was a nice touch. You see with runners on, money player David Eckstein hitting .329. No surprise there, really, is there? That's what he did here in St. Louis.
Always clutch hitter, very good with 2 outs. Very hard to strike out.
51 pitches according to the scoreboard here at Busch Stadium already for Pinheiro. Runners at first and third, the 0-2. Runner goes, and it's foul. One thing about Eckstein we saw in St. Louis, and that continues now in his time away from the Gateway City, he is one of the toughest guys to strike out. So you get in a spot like this, first and third,
he's going to put, pressure on that defense because he'll put the ball in play. We talked about it too, Ricky, last night. The fact that David has just been so good with the fans, signing autographs, taking pictures, what you want from a big leaguer. And there's a rare strikeout of David Eckstein. So the Padres strand 2. It's 3-1 midway through 2. Everything you knew about fantasy football is about to change. Introducing the all-new Fox Fantasy Football with more customized features and new ways to play the game. Log on to foxsports.com on MSN and join the next generation of fantasy football. These crowds have just been unbelievable. 3-1 Cardinals. I believe we are sold out again tonight on this Saturday night. Why not? Weather is ideal. It's perfect. And Tony La Russa even talked about that in today's paper. We talked about it last night, how the weather, and Ricky, you dealt with this as a player here in St. Louis. We have had a just unbelievable summer. It has been mild, and you think about the toll that a hot summer might have on a baseball player.
Well, I think it's a positive in terms of the fan experience here, no doubt. And why not come out on a beautiful day like today and watch your favorite team play? But I wonder whether the Cardinals have lost their home field advantage with that. I mean, when teams would come into play here, it was miserable. I mean, miserable for the visitors. All they could do was talk about how hot the turf was or how hot the stadium was. And I'm not sure that advantage is there anymore.
How about for San Diego? They come from maybe the best place in the world. Then they come to St. Louis where the weather is a little bit hotter than what they experience on those cool summer nights. Nice play made by a fan to our right. Nothing to it.
Cardinals are 10 games over 500 at home, 3 games over on the road. San Diego is playing 500 baseball at home, and they are almost 20 games under when they have to leave San Diego.
What do you think it does, though, to a team with their psyche when they give up on a guy like Jake Peavy?
Well, it's the opposite of what happened to the Cardinals when they signed Matt Holliday. It hurts the fan interest. It hurts the players' excitement in the clubhouse. And you almost feel as if you're giving up on the season. And it's really tough on a player to continue to perform at a high level. It's hard not to become selfish as a player and start thinking about your contract, your numbers, because the team.
But isn't that human nature, though?
It's human nature. There's no question. But when the team disintegrates, it's always a bad situation of selfishness with players that a manager has to try to deal with.
To me, that's what stands out about Tony La Russa. You can talk about strategy and hitting the pitcher eighth and some of the odd things that he might do, but the fact is his players on whole believe in him and what he's doing. And Dave Duncan, Molina cranks one down the left field line, and that's pulled foul.
Well, he sells them on team.
Well, to me, Ricky, though, in this day and age, and it's different even from when you play, which is not that far away. These guys still respect Tony La Russa to a great extent. What he says goes. And I'm not sure that if you walked into many major league clubhouses, that's truly the way it is.
It's certainly not as good.
You agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. It's not as good in other places. Some places you have players kind of running the show.
A couple of hops to the shortstop, Everett. Plenty of time, though, to make the play. And what I mean by that is that you're talking about money, you're talking about egos, contracts, and yet he's able still to tie that all in to say, look, we're a team, let's try to go out there and win.
And I'm going to say that is a great similarity, and people may differ about what they believe about Whitey Herzog versus Tony La Russa, but I think they're similar in that respect. They both were in charge, they both commanded respect, and they both took all of the pressure of creating this team environment on themselves, and they wouldn't stand for anything less than that. Now, they did it different ways, but I think their genius is to create a team that competes at a high level. And again, they did it different ways. Tony's more of a pressure guy. Whitey, more of a kind of a relaxed, let's talk about fishing guy. But both guys cared about winning to the nth degree.
And one of the big questions now, we haven't talked about it. We always talk about DeRosa and Holliday. What about number 10? Does he come back next year? And maybe that is part of the equation of Holliday and DeRosa coming back to St. Louis.
Sign all three of them.
Right.
Throw Albert in there.
Here's the thing, though. If you're Tony La Russa, in the back of your mind, you're saying, I have managed every game of arguably this generation's best player, and maybe could go down as the greatest player we've ever seen in our lifetime, which is Albert Pujols. There's got to be something said for that. As Lugo hits it fair, past third, off the sidewall, and Julio Lugo on his way to second base. I mean, you wake up every morning, you're thinking about your lineup, and you know how Tony is. That pitch was up and pulled by Lugo. He's always thinking about the next game and the lineups once this game will end. But one thing he can always pencil in is you see the Exmo Cam presented by Hot Shot Sports Bar and Grill, number 5 in that third spot in the lineup.
Well, we talk about it being a treat from our point of view, Dan, to get to watch Albert play and to broadcast his games, and for the fans here in St. Louis to get to see a player of his caliber. But how about having the opportunity to manage him? I mean, that is,
and that's what I mean.
Is there a better job out there than the one here in St. Louis if you're a manager? I don't think so.
And Pinheiro looks at a ball a little bit low. The pitcher is batting 9th. Something that we haven't always seen with Tony La Russa last couple of years. Different lineup, though. Lugo, Holiday, DeRosa. So the pitcher bats 9th, and a swing and a miss by Pinheiro.
There's certainly reasons that he does that. Different personnel force him to go in the direction of having that extra leadoff hitter in the 9th spot. And we tease each other back and forth on that subject quite a bit because I'm still not sold on it, but I understand why he does it. And he's always got a reason. I don't ever doubt
Really?
that.
You understand it, huh?
I understand it. I don't agree with it.
Okay.
There's a difference. I understand you, Dan, but I don't always agree with you.
I've felt that many times. Thank you,
Good.
Ricky. I appreciate that.
I'm not saying I'm right.
Hey, I watch the post games, okay? I see what you're saying out there. The 2-1 is taken a little bit low, and it's 3-1 on Pinheiro. And you're working with Jim Hayes tonight.
I am.
Not Pat Paris. And you'll be live at Lumiere Place.
Look forward to that. We always have a great time talking more about what happened and why it happened and what to expect for tomorrow.
And that's a strike. Pinheiro was on his way to first, and he's saying, hold on. Give me that pitch when I'm on the mound. I've got no problem going back in the box, but make sure you give me that pitch.
That's when you're a pitcher, you never argue. It's not worth it.
And he didn't.
Nope. Clearly a ball.
And a swing and a miss by Joel Pinheiro. So the Cardinals made the deals to get Holiday, DeRosa, and Lugo, basically Lugo for nothing. Combined totals hitting .343, 18 doubles. How about the 14 home runs? And the main thing, the Cardinals 13-6 since trading for Matt Holiday.
A lot of home runs from Holiday and DeRosa, but a lot of extra base hits from Lugo. A double here in this inning. He's not really a home run guy, but he's done a lot of damage with the bat, and John Mozeliak again deserves an awful lot of credit.
Here is Skip Schumacher. I think you give him credit for going for it, and ownership saying, look, the fans have come out, we're going to go for it this year, whether or not Brett Wallace turns into a superstar. Jess Todd turns into a top reliever. You don't have many shots at it, and you are on good teams and bad teams, and you know, Ricky, when you get that chance, you got to go for it.
Absolutely.
Hit out to left, the catch is made, and we have played 2. 3-1 St. Louis. Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by Kia Motors. To learn more, visit kia.com. By the Casino Queen Hotel and Casino, home of the loosest slots. And by the new 3rd Pound Angus Burgers. They are here. Try one for yourself today, only at McDonald's. Here is Adrian Gonzalez to lead off the 3rd. And a gorgeous night once again here in St. Louis. I want to clarify something that I said. I said the Cardinals got Lugo for basically nothing, meaning money.
Cash, right.
Not the players involved, because you don't know what could happen with Chris Duncan. If he gets on a tear, gets healthy. We've seen him. He obviously has power, and so does this guy. Gonzalez, opposite field, Holiday back, and that ball is back in play, but it is a home run. So a home run for Adrian Gonzalez, and his 31st this year. And You know, we've seen Ryan Howard with that tremendous power to the opposite field. How about this guy?
It's what we were talking about earlier. He did that with Wainwright yesterday. He took a pitch down and away from Wainwright in the same spot. This is a curveball. Tremendous power the other way for Gonzalez. Home run number 31. And he has tremendous plate coverage.
And so what I mean, when you get Lugo for nothing, you pay him the minimum next year. As that's backhanded by Pujols, he'll flip to Pinheiro. The Boston Red Sox are picking up the rest of this season and next season, and then the minimum. And here's the double that you talked about last night.
That pitch is a ball. It's a sinker going down and away, and it's the same swing, same location, different pitch, different pitcher, different day. But it shows that Gonzalez certainly knows how to hit the ball the other way with power.
And so it brings in Kuzmanov.
And we should give some credit to the Cardinal minor league system for developing enough players to make these trades possible.
Another ground ball, this time hit to Lugo at short. Well, it's Todd,
Cardinals gave
it's
up
Perez, Wallace. I mean, there's some pretty good players there. Spend the night under the lights at Busch Stadium. You can do so September 25th. Number to call 345-9000, courtesy of Bass Pro Shops and Tracker Boats.
Todd was the closer in AAA this year. A couple of years ago, that was Chris Perez, the top closer in the Cardinal minor league system. Mark Worrell was traded over here to San Diego. He's actually on the disabled list now.
That was for Green.
They also have Gregerson in the bullpen here, who's become a pretty good pitcher in late innings for the Padres.
DeRosa to his left. Safe at first. Made it close.
Excellent play going to his left. DeRosa showing range. Pops up quickly. Good call at first base. Look at the athleticism to be able to make a play like that. Not that simple.
And that pitch is taken low and away. Over in the other broadcast booth is one of my favorites to cover and watch. That's Tony Gwynn.
Oh.
Did you face Tony?
Oh, yeah. I loved pitching to Tony Gwynn. You could not strike this man out.
Hold on.
I did. I liked the challenge.
You loved pitching to Tony Gwynn?
Yeah. I like the challenge.
Are you of sane mind right now?
Masochistic.
I mean, you're
hey,
talking
you know
about
what?
one of the
Ask
best.
Tony. He loved hitting off me. It was mutual.
3-2 St. Louis. 3-2 St. Louis over San Diego as we move to the Cardinals half of the third on another gorgeous night for baseball here in downtown St. Louis. When you come to the ballpark, they say it's baseball heaven here in St. Louis. I can't think of a better place. I think Matt Holliday's finding that out. Mark DeRosa's finding that out.
And there were plenty of players before them that found that out. I think Larry Walker found that out. I think Will Clark enjoyed coming over to St. Louis at the end of his career.
I was so disappointed that he didn't play one more year. As Colby looks at a ball. I mean, he became an instant fan favorite. When you talk about Will Clark. Cardinals have Rasmus, Pujols, and Holiday. By the way, Max Linewan, who produces your postgame show, and it is your show, Ricky. Tony Gwynn, 10 for 25 against Rick Horton. As Rasmus is on his way to second base and in there safely. So the Hall of Famer, 10 for 25, 5 RBIs. Apparently in those confrontations you had no strikeouts either.
I don't remember. I told you I couldn't strike him out. He could foul off a good pitch better than anybody that I ever saw. Colby Rasmus, first at bat, pitch middle in, takes it the other way, just as he did last night. Now pitch inside, he turns on this breaking ball and pounds it to right field. Colby very streaky, and he's on a good streak now.
Now you're Bud Black, okay? You got first base open, you got Pujols up. You see what he's done in his unbelievable career so far. And Pujols chops one to short, and Colby stays put. Albert is out. My point was about to be, which way do you want to go? Do you want to pitch to Pujols? Do you sit there and say, well, don't give him anything to hit? Do you deal with Holiday? I mean, this is a tough decision now if you're an opposing manager.
Well, I think you've got to pitch to him, and I think you've got to be on third base if you're Colby Rasmus.
Yeah.
There's many ways to get from second base to third on a ball hit on the left side of the infield. And one of them is when a shortstop has to charge the ball. There's no way that Cabrera could have thrown out Colby at third. So a big base running mistake there for Rasmus. And you just hope that Matt Holliday will make that a moot point.
So runner at second base, and here is the red hot Matt Holliday, who is homered tonight, a 2-run shot. And that pitch is taken outside. We really haven't seen Holliday and Pujols click in the same game. It really hasn't been that way. I mean, a couple times it's been there, but we're still waiting to see. And I guess we're expecting too much. I'm probably talking.
You want to both have 3 home runs.
I want to see home runs and base hits and RBIs and stolen bases.
I'll bet you see that, Dan, before the season's over, at least a couple of times.
Now, those two talked in spring trainings before, talking about David Eckstein there and Colby Rasmus. Here's a 1-1 pitch. Holliday, shallow left center, and the catch made. You think about guys that might be coaches in this game, and certainly you think about David Eckstein. For every Cardinals win during this homestand, you can take $6 off Lowe's box seats for the Astros series August 25th, 26th, and 27th. With 3 wins so far, the discount is already up to $18. This is a great deal. That's over half price. So if the Cardinals sweep the Padres, tickets will be just $4. How high will the discount go? For more information, visit STLCardinals.com.
It probably should be 4-2 Cardinals right now.
You advance on the ground out by Albert, and they get the fly ball with his speed of Rasmus. You score. And you think about it when you're playing the elite team. San Diego is not an elite team.
You can't make that mistake.
You can't make that mistake. That's right. Ludwig, first time up, struck out. This right-hander for San Diego with 3 strikeouts tonight. And that's popped foul. Mentioned last night how you really pull for a guy like Ryan Ludwig. You want to see him do well with all the injuries he's had to deal with and not being a full-time player at times in his career, and yet here he is quietly 74 driven in this year.
He almost does better in that quiet role, doesn't he? As opposed to the guy that's the frontline guy that you count on every night.
1-2. Although
kind of sneaks up on you.
The numbers would tell you that he was as good as anybody hitting behind Albert Pujols, in particular when Albert was walked, intentional or not. And many times the unintentional walk was the intentional variety. They were trying to get to Ryan Ludwig, and yet he made opposing clubs pay. He was very good. And he strikes out for the second time. That's 4 for Stauffer here tonight. 4th inning rolls in. When we come back, it's 3-2. It's 3-2 St. Louis. This date in history, 1939. The Wizard of Oz premieres at a theater, and another famous wizard did not debut until 1979. That was in San Diego. So you got the Wizard of Oz, and you played with the Wizard of Oz. I mean, you played with the real Wizard of Oz, which is Ozzie Smith, the Hall of Famer.
Incredible defensive shortstop. Very acrobatic. Could make plays nobody else has ever been able to make.
Lugo deep in the hole, and he makes the play there, right on cue. The shortstop now for the Cardinals comes up with a nice play.
The shortstop is, in my mind, the most athletic position. You can make some great plays as a shortstop. It's really a very artistic position to play. You've got to do a lot of different things, come in on balls, go left, right, show a lot of range, show a lot of agility around the bag. You know, Lugo, again, he's not one of the top defensive shortstops in the game, but certainly has been impressive with the bat, but Brendan Ryan has made tremendous strides. But I'll say this, if I ever say Brendan Ryan's name in the same sentence as Ozzie Smith again, Jose Oquendo is going to come after me.
That's backhanded by DeRosa. I'm concerned now. What happened?
Jose got on. Oh, he was all over me the other day. He said, you can't even say their name in the same. I don't even want you to say him in the same broadcast. He has so much respect.
You just did.
I know. And I keep doing that to bug him. But Jose has so much respect for Ozzie Smith, and as good as he was, and even to kind of maybe insinuate that Ryan may be playing at a level close to Ozzie, he thinks is ludicrous.
Now, for me, growing up here, when I mentioned this last night, I mean, Ozzie Smith was it. I mean, he was the best you could ever see. You'd go to the ballpark. I used to go to the ballpark early to watch Ozzie take the ground balls during BP. And I used to go watch Mark Whitten fire from right field because I just wanted to see his arm. I used to watch Ricky Horton come in the 8th of a 10-3 game. I mean, all those things came to my mind.
And get a pitcher out.
The other left-hander, I can't give trouble like that, okay? So I can give you a little trouble. So give me a little leash here to do this.
And it's deserved. I'm okay with it. I had the best job in the world being on a team with players like Ozzie Smith and Jack Clark and winning teams, Tommy Herr, Willie McGee. Just incredible people, great teammates. And really, you think about the history of the Cardinals. So many wonderful players and so many just great human beings too, and we were very lucky. Red Schoendienst, perhaps along with Stan Musial, epitomized what it means to be a Cardinal.
Tommy Herr, a familiar number 28.
Probably the smartest Cardinal of that era in terms of people you would have thought would have been a great big league manager.
I thought he was managing in the minor leagues.
He is managing, and he's still doing that.
Okay.
Both of his sons played minor league baseball.
Here's another ground ball. Pujols hurrying up to get it. The tag is there. And the Padres go in order. DeRosa, Molina, Lugo coming up. 3-2 Cardinals. Bud Light, what's on tap? The difference is drinkability. Bud Light. And the Cardinals and the Padres will play in Game 3 tomorrow on KSDK and the Cardinals TV network. That means Rick Horton and Jay Randolph Sr. You'll have the call at 12:30 tomorrow, and you've got some folks behind us.
I do. My sister Cindy and her family are here. My daughter's here before going back to college. It's a big Horton family reunion up here. They just came to meet you, Dan.
Glad that you could figure out the perfect date to do it when you actually are in the booth to make sure that this happened.
That's right. How about that?
You know, you could have done it tomorrow when you were on Channel 5 with Jay.
I could have. Looking forward to that game. May be a sweep for the Cardinals if they are able to hold on here. And what a homestand this would be if the Cardinals continue to play like this. August set up as a good month for the Cardinals. 5 off days. And 23 out of 26 games against teams less than 500. Padres certainly in that category. And so you just have to take care of business, Dan. You have to win the games you're supposed to win.
That's inside to DeRosa. You every Sunday get the chance to work with one of my favorites and a legend here in town. And you're talking about Jay Randolph. What a wonderful man.
Classy guy. And he knows.
Man, what a good guy.
He knows everybody.
Yes, he does.
I mean everybody. And they're all his good friends.
I saw him, Ricky, I guess it was after one of the Saturday games. He was doing some homework, getting ready for the Sunday telecast, and I went in and visited with him, and one thing led to another. We started talking about baseball, then it turned to hockey, then we started talking about horse racing, and then it turned into something else. I don't remember, but it was about
He can do golf and bowling, too, if you want to go there.
90 minutes, and I mean, I was just riveted. So it's great to have Jay back in St. Louis and working on the games, and a classy individual behind the mic doing these games, which is wonderful.
And Jay, of course, did Cardinal games for years years back in the 80s and before that, and worked with Mike Shannon and others along the way, Jack Buck, and just has a wealth of knowledge, and he really is just a classy human being.
Here's Yadier Molina with 1 out and nobody on. I mean that sincerely. He's about as good as they come. Molina grounded out to short his first time up. 1 out, nobody on, and here comes a 1-0 pitch. That's taken low and away. And there's a look at Mike Shannon. You get the chance to work with Mike too.
He's not wearing his typical black shirt today. I don't know why that is. He's got a different color on today. But Mike is. Mike
made
is
up
a
for
hoot.
him.
Yeah, we did. Mike is one of a kind. They obviously broke the mold when they made Mike Shannon.
3-0. Now he was broadcasting when you were playing.
He was. Players always loved Mike Shannon because he understood what it was like to be on the field, and he never really made excuses for players, but he also understood what the life of a player was like, and he still understands that. And I tell you, when he tells a story, he tells it like nobody else, and he's really done an outstanding job over the years of growing the interest of Cardinal baseball, not just in the state of Missouri, but throughout the Midwest, really throughout the country.
So a 1-out walk to Molina. And to Mike's right, our left, is Jim Jackson, the producer engineer of Cardinals baseball, and he's been around for over a decade with the Cardinals, but doing SLU basketball and hockey. Wonderful man. We've got a good group, don't we?
We do. Jim has the perfect kind of disposition to work with all of us folks. He just kind of smiles and lets it go in one ear and out the other.
So you're saying that
he patronizes us, is what I'm saying.
That need to look that up in my Virginia dictionary.
And John Rooney. John and I go way back. John used to do games for the AAA Louisville Redbirds in the early 80s when he was first starting out, and it's great to have him back in the Cardinal organization, and he's just got that wonderful voice, doesn't he? John just has a very unique voice and is a Cardinal through and through.
1 ball, 1 strike as they continue to check on Molina. Actually had a steal last night. It was a great jump,
I'll say,
and it better be.
I'll say,
and it was for Molina as Julio Lugo digs in. 1 ball, 1 strike, and that pitch is taken for a strike.
Well, it's what we were talking about the feel of stealing a base. That Yadier Molina has 7 stolen bases and Colby Rasmus has 1. I mean, it's just there's something about the fact that Yadi has learned how to do it and when to do it and has a feel for it, and Colby has not yet developed that. And I understand sometimes he doesn't have the green light.
Lugo slowly hit to second. They'll get 1 here. Lead runner. Talk to Tim McCarver about Julio Lugo, and we'll mention that in just a moment. As Cardinal fans, when it comes to tickets, you deserve Major League service, so go to StubHub. It's the only site with Fan Protect guarantee. And Tim McCarver was saying that he felt the Red Sox gave up on Lugo way too early. A lot of money still owed to him too.
Well, there's something about a player who's not playing well and is making a lot of money that makes him seem even worse than he really is. If you're expecting him to be a $8 million a year player and he's not, he's hitting 270, it just seems like he's having a terrible year. And maybe it's not a good year, maybe it's not an $8 million year, but what happens is your expectations get so high that you turn on him and the pressure starts to build even within the player, and you just feel compelled to make a move. And I think that's what happened with him.
You got to think too that with the Boston-New York rivalry and the big names that come into that rivalry, that if this guy doesn't produce, the heck with it. See you later. We'll get somebody else in here.
Edgar Renteria did not have a very
you
good
don't stay with that
there.
player. Good pitch, but doesn't get the call.
Stopper seems to be settling down a bit. 3 runs in the first, a couple of zeros after, looking for his 3rd 0 in a row. And that run where Colby Rasmus didn't go from 2nd to 3rd, you just kind of have that nagging feeling, Dan, that might be a run that matters later on.
I agree with you. It's 3-2, and you mentioned before how the Cardinals very easily could have made it with a 4-run lead, or at least put 4 runs up on the board and had a lead. Pitch number 73 taken low by Pinheiro. Three and 1 the count with a runner at first. 2 outs in the Cardinals half of the 4th. hit out of play. The team that really concerned me, not even the Dodgers, but the Phillies with their left-handed pitching. And now I look at the Cardinals with Lugo, Holiday, DeRosa, and I think you might have countered that left-handed pitching if you get into postseason play.
Certainly a more balanced offense. You think of an offense that was built around, of course, Albert, but Schumacher at the top of the lineup playing every day, and then Duncan and then Ankiel. You're talking about a vulnerability to left-handers there. And now you've got a lineup built around Holiday and Pujols and DeRosa. And you throw Lugo in there or Brendan Ryan, and all of a sudden a lot more effective against left-handers.
So a walk to Joel Pinheiro, second walk in this inning. And we go back to the top of the lineup and Skip Schumacher. Has Stauffer been what you expected here tonight?
Yeah, not great stuff, but looks like he knows how to pitch a little bit. And really it's all about just mixing his pitches for him. And for most pitchers, Dan, that's what it is. It is, you're not overpowering anybody unless you're in the elite group, and you're just trying to just throw whatever it is they're not looking for.
Sure.
And throw it in the right spot.
So
and do it all night long.
2 on for Skip Schumacher, and one of the guys that people are talking about in baseball circles, Steven Strasburg, which was Tony Gwynn's pitcher at San Diego State. So they have until Monday night to make that decision, to offer him enough money, whatever that is. Speaking of the Washington Nationals, and the Cardinals, they've got their high school pitcher they have to sign by 11 o'clock on Monday night. So right now, John Mozeliak is saying, yeah, I'd like to maybe tinker with this lineup or tinker with my bullpen, but I also have to think of the future, which is getting my guys signed. Shelby Miller. 0-2 pitch. In the air to center field. That'll drop. And a run will score. Lugo will score. And the Cardinals add on to their lead. It's 4-2. The center fielder stayed back on that. It looked to be maybe a catchable ball, but we don't know. And that winds up being a base hit on an 0-2 pitch.
Well, we'll never know, but if you're the pitcher stopper, you'd like to at least have had a chance to find out. He went back on that ball, maybe not able to make the play anyway, but I don't think he read the ball off the bat very well. Kind of a sinking liner off the bat of Schumacher. Had a little topspin on it to give at least some credit to the center fielder, but you'd like to see him at least try to catch that ball, because that's a big run that Schumacher just drove in.
So he passed up $3 million, huh?
Passed up $3 million. You're kind of thinking he made a mistake?
Oh, I'm not kind of.
Well, you know, doing the right thing, it'll come back to you at some point. Padres are bent on continuing to give him chances. So if you can be a big league pitcher at this level for a couple of years, you might get that $3 million back in a hurry.
Yeah, that's true.
And they really want him to succeed. And you know, when you're throwing 85 miles an hour without a sharp breaking ball, you kind of need a reason to have somebody behind you. And I think the Padres are behind him. Now you could be left-handed.
That's a different story.
Left-handed with a pulse and you're okay.
You're right.
But right-handed is a little different story.
You throw a breaking ball, 85, you can spot it. You're just fine. Lefty, not righty. Lefty. Pujols on deck and Colby at the plate right now. Rasmus, a couple of singles so far. 2 for 2. That's outside. 2 balls and no strikes, and you would figure, with runners at first and third, 2 balls and no strikes, Pujols on deck, you should get a pitch to hit.
He's going to get a pitch to hit. He's swinging the bat well. He's got a count in his favor. I would say Colby Rasmus has a better than even chance of getting a base hit right now.
The 2-0 pitch. Hit on the ground to second base. Eckstein, the former Cardinal, puts him away.
And he also has a chance of grounding out to second.
That's the other thing that could happen. Pujols left on deck. 4-2 Cardinals. It's time to bring you up to speed with the AT&T Rapid Rewind. AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network. AT&T, your world delivered. Rick Horton filling in for Al tonight, and that's Matt Holliday. I'm Dan McLaughlin. It's 4-2 St. Louis, top of the 5th here at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. And Matt Holliday has homered tonight, a 2-run shot. Already his 5th as a Cardinal and 22 RBIs. Pujols, by the way, an RBI double. He's also grounded out to short. But if you're a championship team, Ricky, as this is David Eckstein, followed by Gonzalez and Headley, I'm not necessarily saying they have to sweep series because baseball is such an odd game where at times you don't. But if you're a championship team, a winning team, you have to win these series.
You have to win it, no question about that.
David is hustling down the line, but retired to start the 5th.
You're going to run into a hot pitcher every once in a while, even if it's not one of their aces. Some guy's just going to have a good game and have his good stuff and neutralize you even if he's pitching on a poor team. And so you are going to lose some games. That's just the way baseball is. The Cardinals are playing in the game that will end the second third of the season. This is game number 118. So we're entering tomorrow the final third of the season. And that's what you want to do, is win series that last third of the season. Then you're going to put some distance between yourself and the Cubs if you make that happen.
Here's Gonzalez, and Pinheiro has been a different pitcher tonight. Take away the first inning, and for the most part he's been very good. And that's a strike on the inside corner.
Only one walk for Pinheiro. You just really come to expect no walks out of him.
One ball, one strike. And the next two, Gonzalez, who is homer tonight.
You see they're trying to pitch him in, Dan, after pitching him away a couple of times. Wainwright, again, he took the other way for a double. Last at bat, he homered. Fastball in, no. Slider. Fastball in, no. Slider, no. Fastball away. Going to try to go away again. Yachty doesn't seem too sure about that.
The 2-1 pitch, it's away, and it's a ground ball. The shift, not to the extent we've seen it before, but it was on as Skip was on the outfield grass, and there's 2 away. So Gonzalez retired for the first time tonight, and Skip is about 5-10 feet on that outfield grass.
He tried to pull that one, and Skip, they used to call that in softball the short fielder, the one that played
right.
like the 4th outfielder.
Yeah, that's him. If you ask Skip, I bet he'd be comfortable being known as your 4th outfielder, but yet he's finishing games at second base.
Why take him out now? I mean, I think he deserves to be in the game at the end right now.
Here's Chase Headley. 2 balls and no strikes. So the question would be, you're in the 7th game of the World Series, you have a lead. Is Skip your guy?
I think right now he is, to play second base.
I mean, this guy has done an unbelievable job at second base. To move from the outfield and all of a sudden play this position at this level. I mean, no one else has done that for years. Some would say it's the hardest position to play too. You've got double plays. You've got thinking about backing up. You're talking about backhanded plays. Do I turn to my left, my right? How do I underhand on a double? I mean, there's a million things that come into play.
Relays.
Yes, relays. Great point.
Got to have a strong arm. Cardinals had a strong arm in Grudzelanic at second base, but Schumacher's is just as strong.
Oh, he's beyond that. There's no doubt. And a strikeout for Pinheiro. He's settled in. Pujols, Holliday, Ludwig, all coming up. Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by AT&T. Switch to the nation's fastest 3G network. AT&T, your world delivered. And the Chrysler Summer Clearance Sale is here. Get to your Chrysler dealer today for some of the best deals of the season. Here's Albert Pujols, and the Cardinals have a lead.
The top of the 5th was a very big inning for Joel Pinheiro to get through the heart of the order of the Padres with another 0 up on the board, and maybe the Cardinals can extend the lead here.
2 balls and no strikes on Albert Pujols, who has an RBI double. He's also grounded out to short. Then you have Matt Holliday, who's homered tonight, and Ludwig 0 for 2 with a pair of strikeouts. The 2-0 pitch to Albert. He gets that call. He gets that call.
He does.
3-0. I think it's interesting for our fans to hear your perspective of Albert Pujols, because they see him wearing a helmet, putting on a glove, but you know him in a different level. I mean, you know him away from the ballpark better than most. And when you watch him address the batter's box, he's got a scowl. You know, he looks mean, he looks unhappy, but I know him a little bit. He's not like that.
And he's not that guy.
And I know you know him very well.
But I love the fact that he is that guy in the batter's box, though, Dan. The competitor in him wants to win. There's nothing wrong with that. And that scowl is not "I hate you." That scowl is "I'm going to hit this ball 400 miles,
right,
and there's nothing you can do about it." I don't think that's mean. I think that's competing. But Albert, I think what he did in Pittsburgh with that fan that fell off the railing and injured his head, and Albert's care for him, to me, shows what kind of man he is and shows the real Albert Pujols. And he's not perfect. I mean, who is? And he has demands on his life that none of us really understand. And he's going to have his moody days. But for him to stand there and care for that fan shows that he really has a genuine interest in people.
Here's the 0-1 pitch to Holiday. On his hands again, 0-2, and Holiday shaking his head just a little bit because he had a couple of pitches probably to hit right there. 0-2 the count. That fan, by the way, is fine and no issues whatsoever. So I know we've had a lot of response of fans in Cardinal Nation concerned about that particular fan. That fan is healthy and no problems. His son, by the way, was celebrating his 21st birthday, and his son has Down syndrome. So there was a connection there even before the injury with Albert Pujols. Burke getting loose in the bullpen for San Diego.
Albert ended up signing a ball for that young man and had a little counseling with him to tell him that, hey, your father's going to be okay. Really, the great part of that story to me, and also some credit to Perry Hill, the first base coach for Pittsburgh, is Brad Henderson said when he went over there as a trained person in that kind of situation, as the trainer for the Pirates, he let Albert continue to do what he was doing and didn't take over because he was doing it so well.
That's incredible. That's a called strike on Holiday. He doesn't like it. He strikes out for the first time tonight. Couple of words and he'll head back to the dugout, and it brings in Ludwig.
Doesn't like this pitch. It looked like it might have been inside. Very close, borderline call. Does not go Holiday's way. You know, he's not a very demonstrative kind of guy. At least we haven't seen that yet here in St. Louis. Holiday's kind of just very low-key, I would say, the way he plays the game. He's playing very, very well.
I was about to say, why would you be when you're hitting 500? Right. There's not a lot of things to be upset with.
Right. But the emotions even can come out in a positive way. I mean, you just see him just kind of ho-hum doing his job. And so there are different ways that players deal with their own emotions. Some of them like to play emotionally, and some don't.
Yeah. It would be tough, though, to be an emotional player and try to be that rah-rah guy for every day of 6 months. I mean, that would almost be impossible to do that.
That's Rex Hudler, former Cardinal, and that's Kirk Gibson, a former teammate of mine.
Sure.
And they'll wear you out after being with them for about a week. You love the guys, but they wear you out.
Oh, I can imagine. That's up and into Ludwig, who has struck out twice. 2 balls and 1 strike. You were there back in 1988, the famous home run.
I was traded to the Dodgers. Kirk Gibson, when the first day I met him, he said, "My name's Kirk Gibson. What are you going to do to help my team win?"
Is that right?
That's what he said to me. Well, I don't know, but I'm scared of you.
At least you're honest. I don't know. I'll try to get a lefty out here and there. You know, I mean, if Tommy wants me to go in the rotation, I'll do that. Whatever I need to do. That's hilarious. That's intimidating, too.
Oh, I was very intimidated.
The 2-2 pitch to Ludwig instead of check on Albert Pujols over at first. You know, this right-hander's actually struck out 6 here tonight. That almost hit Ludwig just like it almost hit Pujols earlier.
I don't know how that missed him either. Same, very similar pitch.
If you're Craig Biggio or Bonds, you've got the armor on the elbow, so you don't even worry about it. If you don't, you spin away from it.
That sure is a difference in the game over 20 years.
It's huge. There he goes, a swing and a miss, a throw down to second. They've got Albert caught up, throw to first. The tag is there, but not in time. Gonzalez can't believe it, and neither can I.
He looked out to me. Albert knew he got a bad jump, so he just turned and went the other way. The swing and the miss by Ludwig. I'm not going to make it. Best chance, head back this way. I don't know. He looked out again.
Wow. A tough night for Ludwig. He has struck out 3 times, 0 for 3, 7 on the night for this right-hander. And here is DeRosa.
And he struck out twice.
It's been that slider that's gotten both these guys, Ludwig and DeRosa. I mentioned the other night, and I'm not sure if you agree or not, but I've seen a lot of fastballs to Mark DeRosa, and I'm not sure if that's a product of his injury with his wrist, trying to just pound him in.
Word gets around.
Yeah, it does. I mean, video's out there, but this guy's too good of a hitter. That time it's a breaking ball and taking for a ball, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, he's a good enough hitter, Dan, that you really can't stay one way with him anyway, no matter whether it's fastballs in or sliders away. If you keep trying to do the same thing, he's going to make an adjustment.
So 1-2.
There's that fastball in on the hands. And that's the complementary pitch. The fastball in on the hands, the slider down and away. It's kind of pitching 101. You get a guy looking in, then you throw a pitch away from him, trying to change the eye level, trying to vary the speed.
And a check on Pujols over at first.
And that's how a guy with below average stuff has 6 strikeouts working in his 5th inning.
4-2. The Cardinals have the lead with 3 runs in the first and 1 in the 4th. 1-2 pitch here to DeRosa. As a player, when you arrive at the ballpark and let's say you don't take BP and you walk out to this, what kind of impression does that make?
Oh, it's great. The energy's high.
The energy has changed in this ballpark, even when there was 40,000 before. It's just different after these trades.
No question about it. It's noisier, more active crowd. They're standing up more. They're noticing defensive plays more. Honestly, I think the crowd has become energized about watching the game. I think one of the problems you have at a lot of ballparks in baseball is you end up watching the mascot and the hat dance and the stuff between innings and the pierogi races and the guys sliding down the slide in left field. I mean, it's what's happening outside the game that a lot of fans pay attention to. But I think now they're really centering on what's going on the field and noticing it.
That's a base hit up the middle. Pujols to second, and he'll stop there. As far as your future stops for broadcasting, I'm going to cross off Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm going to cross off Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm not
anywhere else. You're good.
Yeah, the hot dog race is,
and Washington, the presidents.
Washington. Now the president race. That's
different.
Yeah,
for you.
that's fun for me. You learn a little history at the ballpark. It's okay.
I caught you.
Well, come on, culturally.
Oh, I agree with you. I enjoy the president race.
Thank you.
When I'm trying to learn about the different sausages that are out there, I do find myself saying at 10 o'clock at night in the middle of the 6th inning, what am I doing here? I got pierogi, sausage. I mean, I got them all.
I'm glad we don't do that here, is all I could say.
Here's Yadier Molina with 2 outs and 2 on. Runners at first and second. That's in the dirt. A good play made by their catcher, Nick Hundley. We praised Molina so many times, and that time he didn't backhand it, got in front. And if he didn't get to it, it was going to go off his body. Good play. Here's a 1-0 pitch to Yadier Molina. Outside, a throw to first, and they throw it away. Albert on his way to third base. And looks like DeRosa may be hurt. Barry Weinberg out. It's an error on the catcher, and now DeRosa being looked at by the Cardinal medical staff, along with Dave McKay and Tony La Russa.
As he was trying to dive back in, he kind of stopped short. You wonder if it's an issue with his wrist. I have to look at the replay again.
It's got to be. And he's not one guy to say anything about his injury. He's not going to use it as an excuse. He hasn't one time. People have asked him about it. Take a look at the left wrist here, as we'll get a look from the replay. See about this slide.
Well, he kind of sticks on the slide. He actually runs into Gonzalez and just sticks, and his hand gets caught underneath his body. Both of them do. And it looks like he's in a little bit of pain there for a second, maybe kind of shocked by it, but appears to be okay right now. That looks like good news.
2-0. Slowly hit to short in a forced play at second. DeRosa is out there. The Cardinals strand Pujols. They lead it though, 4-2. Back in St. Louis, and it's our Aflac trivia question. Who holds the career record for home runs by a pitcher? We saw Adam Wainwright go deep last night here in game 1 of the series. And the answer is Wes Ferrell, 38 home runs. Did you have any idea? Wes Ferrell.
I did not know that.
If you had to make a guess, who would have been your guess?
Wes Ferrell.
If you didn't know the answer, who would have been your guess? Where's Al?
When's the last
Let's get Al back in here.
When's the last time I was wrong, Dan?
I'm telling you. Are you asking me or yourself? And that pitch is taken low by Kuzmanov. By the way, you never know what might happen up in the booth, and Ricky just asked me to pull my headset off, which I of course did, not knowing what he might ask me, and he said, by the way, what was the question?
Well, I was entertaining your friends up here, Dan.
That's a fly ball to center, and it's caught. You talk to an outfielder, in particular a center fielder, they'll say that ball that's hit right at you is the one that's toughest to judge. Do you go back? Do you come in? Little hesitation right there, and then he goes back to make the play.
Sometimes the best thing to do is not overreact, and that's what Colby did there. And a little Michael Jordan with the tongue sticking out, catches the ball over his shoulder.
How would you characterize the year of Colby Rasmus?
Developing. I think that's the one word I would use for him.
Boy, does he have some talent, though.
He has some great talent, but we're starting to see it. It's just coming out. I didn't see him as a very good outfielder with a very good arm the first month of the season. I didn't see that, but I've seen it lately, and so I think he's kind of coming into that five-tool player that we always heard that he was.
You know, a couple of years ago, he had arguably the best spring of any outfielder and didn't make the team. And I know in talking with him, that was disappointing, but he did make the team out of spring training this year. And at this point, you don't know if he's going to play every day. That pitch was up and hammered, but a foul ball. This is Will Venable.
Well, having a good spring training can be like fool's gold. It can be overrated. A pitcher may be 5-0 and strike everybody out and then not able to sustain that. A hitter may have a good streak, but maybe he's really not fully there yet and susceptible to a certain pitch, and he needs some more training. And I think that was the case with Colby. He just had more learning to do.
4 strikeouts for Pinheiro. Let's take a look at that last strike.
Backdoor slider, perfectly executed. Talked about him being more than just a sinker ball pitcher. That was a slider that complements the sinker. It goes in the other direction. Slider goes away from the lefty. Sinker goes away from the lefty. The slider comes towards him.
Here is Kyle Blanks, who is grounded out to third, grounded out to short. First pitch is taken low. Blanks is a big guy. He's 0 for 2 tonight, hitting .236. He's got 6 home runs, 14 RBIs. I thought one of the guys they may trade because he would be a commodity for somebody else because he's won before. He's a money player, as we talked about, is David Eckstein. This is chopped foul.
Well, you know he knows how to play in October.
And that's what I mean. There's certain guys, when the spotlight is on them or the pressure is on them, they rise to that occasion. And We showed you the graphic earlier with runners in scoring position for David Eckstein. I mean, he's around 350 as Pinheiro hits blanks. Didn't want to do that. This Sunday night at Petco Park in San Diego, the USA's best high school baseball players take the national stage in the 7th annual Aflac All-American High School Baseball Classic. Craig Biggio joins us live. It's an HD broadcast. Game time is 7 here on Fox Sports Midwest. That'll be tomorrow. So Blanks is hit by the pitch, and with 2 outs he stands at first, and this is Nick Hundley. Hundley is grounded out to third and also grounded out to short. He's 0 for 2.
Always exciting to hear the stars of the future watching a high school all-star game. The next Colby Rasmus. Somebody starts talking about who the next 4-tool player is, and I think that's always good to look.
You know,
I've come to the future.
I've come to the conclusion that I don't know if I've ever seen a 5-tool player hit, run, throw, hit for power. I mean,
I saw Willie Mays play, and I would say he was a 5-tool player.
Salazar, by the way, is on deck for the Padres. I mean, this guy is about as good as they come. But when you talk about Pujols, you wouldn't say, well, that's a 5-tool player.
No.
You'd say that's a great player. There's a broken bat hit to short. Underhand to second. They just got him. The force play at second base. Cardinals lead it 4-2.
4-2 Cardinals, bottom of the 6th inning. Our Infinity game recap. Cardinals with 3 runs early on in the 1st inning. Joel Pinheiro gives up a run early in the 1st inning. David Eckstein scores that run, but he settles down. Matt Holliday, a home run in that 1st inning. The big hit for the Cardinals as we have another huge crowd here at Busch Stadium enjoying a 4-2 Cardinal lead going to the bottom of the 6th. The St. Louis Cardinals, the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, and Fox Sports Midwest have joined together to encourage young people not to smoke, because once you start, it's hard to stop. Strike out tobacco so we can all breathe easier. Call the Missouri Tobacco Quit line at 1-800-QUIT-NOW. There's a nice look at the crowd here at the ballpark. A lot of smiles. They've seen 7 Cardinal hits here tonight. About hit the Padres 7-6, looking to win the 2nd game of this 3-game series. Cardinals won 9-2 in last night's game. Our Chevy call to the bullpen is the right-hander Burke, and he takes over. In the bottom of the lineup for the Cardinals, Lugo, Pinheiro, and Schumacher scheduled for the Redbirds.
So it's Burke on the mound, Gwynn in center field, Venable now in right field. How about for, you see the numbers there for Greg Burke. We talked a little bit about this last night, but Tony Gwynn Jr. with his dad, he's not in the stands, he's not hitting. By the way, he's in the Hall of Fame and he's broadcasting your games. I don't know if that's a comfortable feeling or pressure. They both, and I've talked to both, Gwynn Jr. and Sr. And I've talked more to Sr. than I have Jr. And you can't find a nicer guy that's ever played this game.
I thought there was a lot of pressure on Chris Gwynn to be the brother of Tony Gwynn.
Oh, yeah.
That's pressure enough. I played with Chris in L.A. and he's another great guy. I mean, everybody loves Tony Gwynn. I mean, you can't find anybody to say, boy, that guy really is a jerk. I mean, you're talking about a Hall of Famer, one of the best hitters ever. And he was not a 5-tool guy.
Nope.
But he was pretty good at some of those other tools. But he was just
especially early on.
Yeah.
But the thing was, you know, for being a guy that played the outfield, you know, he didn't hit many home runs for being in a corner outfield position. But he didn't care because every year he hit 330 or 340.
I think he could have hit more home runs if he wanted to. He didn't really try to hit home runs.
3-2 is the count on Julio Lugo. And Lugo serves it into right field. Base hit. Drops in there. And a leadoff base hit here in the 6th. Here's a look at Tony Gwynn Sr. Oh, not too much. Almost 2,500 games. Nearly hit 340. Over 3,000 hits. We forget early in his career he was a threat to steal. On base percentage almost 400, which is a big stat now that baseball people look at. Remarkable career for Tony Gwynn. Now, as we talked about, he coached Steven Strasburg, and so he has told people that Steven Strasburg is the real deal, that this guy is about as good as they come, and so the Nationals have until Monday night to get him signed.
And he's looking for big dollars.
Big dollars. Some people say in the neighborhood of maybe $50 million for a signing bonus. There's the bunt, and a good one. Only play is to go to first, so Joel Pinheiro does his job. Pitch in for Healthy Smiles with Delta Dental. And the Cardinals purchase a $2 raffle ticket for a chance to win an autographed baseball by Albert and join in the Smiles. The proceeds benefit local charities that help kids have healthy smiles. For information to buy your tickets, please go to smilesleague.com. Back to the top of the lineup for the Cardinals, and here is Skip Schumacher, who has picked up an RBI base hit back in the fourth. He's also flied to left and grounded out to second. The little things, sacrificing, like Joel just did right there, helps you win games. 4-2 Cardinals. I know I was bringing up a subject that made you think during the last commercial break, which is a 5-tool player. Did you ever play with one, or have you seen one recently? And maybe we're just forgetting somebody that's obvious, but there's not really one right now that comes to mind for me.
I had to go back to Willie Mays to think of one, so that's saying something. We say Albert's not one because he doesn't have the blazing speed, and when we talk about being a 5-tool guy, that means you excel at five different things. Yeah, you've got power, you can hit for average, you've got great defensive ability, a strong arm, and you can run. And that's what scouts look for. They look for those 5 things. Of course, there's another tool that's kind of an intangible tool about what kind of passion and desire and heart you have. And if you're talking about that tool, Albert's got that one and then some. All that kind of internal drive that you'd like to see a player have.
And I'm sure you've played with guys and you've covered guys that have that great heart. David Eckstein would be one where that's not measured with a stopwatch. There's a base hit into left field. Gets down. Throw to the plate. Cut off, and the Cardinals add to their lead. It's 5-2. Skip with a couple of RBIs tonight, now with 30 on the year.
That's a big hit for Schumacher here in the 6th inning to extend the Cardinal lead to 3 as he takes the ball the other way. A lot of Cardinals taking the ball the other way. Rasmus did it earlier. Schumacher does it here in the 6th inning. Cardinals getting production at the top of their lineup.
And here is Colby Rasmus. The only guys I can think about as far as being 5-tool will probably be Barry Bonds early in his career, not late.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
He could run very well. Again, very good defensive player early on.
Ken Griffey Jr. He would come to mind.
I don't remember him having blazing speed, but perhaps he did early on.
He had good speed. Yeah, he had very good speed. 0-1 with 1 out and a runner at first base. Let's go back to the left fielder, and could this have been caught? That's a couple times they have let a couple of the balls just drop in front, and one was in center, that one in left. I'll give you another name, and this is a guy that you know, Andre Dawson.
We talked about the scowl of Albert Pujols. That's the way Andre Dawson played.
Here's the 0-2 pitch to Colby. Taken in, 1-2.
And it's difficult. We're talking about a left fielder there that maybe could have charged the ball harder. Maybe if he had a better arm, throw somebody out at the plate. We're talking about Headley and left. And, you know, he's still a big leaguer, and he's a good outfield, but he doesn't have plus defensive ability, doesn't have that plus arm to where any ball hits. I mean, if you hit that ball to Andre Dawson, I guarantee you there'd have been a play at the plate.
Andre Dawson, by the way, had 314 steals. That might surprise some because you always thought of the Hawk. You know, and a guy that seemed to kill the Cardinals and hit those long fly balls at Wrigley Field. But that wasn't the case. 314 steals for Andre Dawson. 2-2. The next two, Colby pulls that pitch for a base hit into right field. Schumacher will stop at second base. And that was a pitch that you thought he might go to right with, and this time he turned on it and hit it into right field. Saturday, August 29th is photo night at Busch Stadium. Always a popular night. And gates open at 4:15. So bring your camera and arrive early to go on the field. You can snap up close pictures of all your favorite players and coaches. Fredwood will be here. And it's photo night Saturday, August 29th.
Well, Dan, it could be 8-2 in about 30 to 35 seconds.
One swing of the bat.
I'm counting.
Good news is the American Legion Regional, Festus, representing the area, beats the team from North Carolina. And that was in North Dakota. You know, they can only play baseball for about 2 more weeks in North Dakota. But they squeezed it in, and Festus won, so congratulations to those guys. Runners at first and second, 1 ball and no strikes here on Albert Pujols. Pujols has walked and also has an RBI double. Is it me, or is it more and more Albert's getting more calls on those tight pitches at the plate?
I think you
Maybe it's me.
I think you may have something there. Albert maybe deserves the benefit of the doubt. He knows the strike zone pretty well. Think about a Joe Morgan and a Pete Rose. You almost could not throw them a strike unless they swung at.
2-0 pitch. That's one that Albert would like to have back. Yes?
Yeah, he was not thinking about a base hit the other way there.
Do you have any insight on Albert against Shaq?
I do not. And of course, if I were there, I'd be sworn to secrecy as the planned reality TV show
The
took place.
planned reality.
That's what I said.
It doesn't quite make all sense, but yes, I understand where you're coming from.
Well, you know, people my generation don't get reality TV. This is my reality TV right here.
And it's 3-1 on Pujols. How about all the flash bulbs? I haven't had a chance to ask Albert about this. I remember talking to McGuire. I said the flash bulb was popping. Did that bother you? And Big Mac said never. He said he was so focused on the pitcher, it never bothered him. But tonight, even more so than maybe some other nights. I mean, they are popping tonight. 3-1 to count on Pujols. 5-2 Cardinals. Here in the 6th inning. You really see it from where we're sitting, which was behind home plate.
Another hanging slider. Albert just a bit out in front as another 500 or so flash bulbs went off. I wasn't counting.
Got to be quick, real quick. And Pujols grounds it to third. Nice play. Force at second, on to first. Safe is Albert. Not a bad turn out there at second base, was it? The cameras, flash bulbs popping here at Busch Stadium.
Another good play by the third baseman. David Eckstein does get rid of that ball in a hurry. Close play at second. And he made it close at first base as well. Another nice play going to the left for Kuzmanov.
And here is Matt Holliday with 2 outs, runners at first and third. Now his season average is at .323. With the Cardinals, he's around .500. What a spark he has provided. Big gap into left center field for Holliday. And the first pitch is taken for a ball. Holliday tonight, 2-run homer back in the first. That was his 5th with the Cardinals. Also flied out to left and was called on strikes on an inside pitch that he didn't like his last time up back in the 5th. So 1st and 3rd, 1-0 the count with 2 outs. Just trying to think of potential teams that may be heading to postseason play. The one that really scares me, the Phillies, especially when they're at home. That would be the one that stands out for me.
And the Phillies also helped themselves with some acquisitions,
yes,
too, and they've got an incredible lineup. And you're right, playing at home, tough to beat there. That power in that lineup. Short porches.
The 2-0, little check swing and a foul ball. They have added Cliff Lee, of course, and Webb, a right-hander, is getting loose in the bullpen right now for San Diego.
I talked earlier about San Francisco. If they are able to somehow, maybe they could win the West, but even if they were the wild card team in the National League, when you've got Lincecum and Kane, and they've also improved themselves with Freddie Sanchez up the middle, that's that team with not a lot of offense, but they find ways to win. And I think Lincecum and Kane, again, it's like having Carpenter and Wainwright.
You've got Brian Wilson at the end of games. Right. The 2-1 pitch, and that's a strike. Now, the oddity of what I just said is the fact that the Phillies are 29 and 29 at home, and that just, to me, doesn't make any sense.
Hard to imagine that, isn't it?
500 at home for the Phillies with the short porch. Ball flies out of there. They have a lineup that's conducive for home runs. When you think of Utley and Ryan Howard and some of their big sluggers in that lineup. The 2-2 pitch. Holiday jammed a bit. Floats one into shallow left center. And this is caught by Tony Gwynn. And Dad has a sigh of relief to the booth to our right. Cardinals strand a couple, but they lead at 5-2. 5-2. The Cardinals have the lead here in the top of the 7th, and it's our Mercedes-Benz E-Class attention assist of the game. Julio Lugo, this little chopper deep in the hole on the outfield grass, and he comes up with it. Makes a nice play. Mercedes-Benz E-Class attention assist of the game. Here's Pinheiro approaching 100 pitches tonight. And this is Tony Gwynn. First pitch is a strike. Brendan Ryan takes over at shortstop for the Cardinals, and Lugo is out of the game. I may give you a little indication of what Tony is feeling about the play of Brendan Ryan defensively and just how good he has been as he has gotten better and better and more confident at shortstop. And we've talked about it. He's turned into one of the best defensive shortstops in all of baseball. Now, we were talking about earlier the Phillies being 500 at home. Well, on the road, they're one of the best teams in baseball. Nearly 20 games above 500, which is a bit surprising, I'm sure, for most. The world champions. And the Phillies lead the National League East Division by 4.5 games. The Cardinals start 4.5 games in front of Chicago, and out west the Dodgers are 5 games in front of Colorado, 6.5 in front of San Francisco. So 5-2 with 1 out here in the top of the 7th, and this is Cabrera. What do you think, Ricky? Probably the final inning of work here for Pinheiro as he's now above 100 pitches.
Yeah, I would say it's clearly his last inning. Cardinals are trying to find the right combination of that 7th and 8th inning in their bullpen. Looks like it'll be Dennis Reyes against some of the left-handers here for the Padres. When we get to the 8th inning, it looks like he's ready to go.
I'll give Pinheiro a lot of credit here tonight. There's another strikeout, and for Pinheiro, that's number 5 tonight. You think of Joel Pinheiro, go back to this first inning. Looked to be a struggle with 20+ pitches, but now he has really settled in.
And he elevates this one. That's actually looks like a breaking ball that he got up in the zone when the hitter Cabrera couldn't lay off of it. Every once in a while, even when you're a sinker ball pitcher, you got to throw a ball up. You've got to elevate. You've got to change the eye level of the hitter. That's exactly what he did there. And it has been a good job for Pinheiro.
So 2 outs, and here is Eckstein. First pitch, a strike.
It's a Cardinals get towards the 7th and 8th inning, it makes me think about a certain right-hander that might be available in the next week or so.
Enlighten me.
Well, you just wonder about John Smoltz. You just wonder whether or not he would fit in the Cardinal bullpen or not. There's been talk about that.
I'd love to see it. I would love to see it.
Well, I think he would bring value again if you can get him at the right price. He's been so good against right-handed hitters, and we're going to see Denys Reyes face Gonzalez since Eckstein got aboard. And another nice job for Pinheiro.
We'll take in the crowd as we head to break. Five to 2, the Cardinals have the lead. Joel Pinheiro just ducked down that tunnel, and he's in line for another victory here tonight. He'll turn it over to the bullpen. Denys Reyes in for the Cardinals, 54th time as he is in for St. Louis.
And he's been solid along with Trevor Miller from the left side in the bullpen. Reyes has had a couple of blow-up games, but for the most part he's been very good, particularly against left-handers. And this is a tough project here in Adrian Gonzalez, who's 2 for 3. His home run in the 3rd inning accounted for one of the 2 Padre runs.
I find this move interesting because Tony La Russa, with Trevor Miller out there, has used him more in spots to get that one lefty out in a key spot, and Denys Reyes has really more been the guy in the 5th or the 6th and here in the 7th. But this might be the ball game right now if you're talking about the Padres with 2 outs and a big bopper at the plate.
Certainly a big batter right here, and Miller pitched an inning last night, which may have factored into that decision. But you'd really like to have 2 hot lefties at the same time if you could possibly make that work.
And that's a strike.
And that's why we're talking about the right-handed issue for the Cardinals and whether John Smoltz could fill a role out there, pitch the 8th inning. It's possible, again, if the price was right.
Well, I said this the other night. I mean, how do you not at least discuss it? It's got to come up in conversation. We're talking about a future Hall of Famer. He's closed games out, so it's not like you're trying to take a guy that's been good against the righties only as a starter. You're talking about a guy that's been a closer, a World Series hero, a starter. So that basically gives you everything you need to know. So at the age of 42, can he still get people out? That's a base hit into center. Well, Eckstein will stop at second.
And that's the big question, whether or not he's still got any gas left or not. One other thing you'd get with John Smoltz is you'd get another coach in the bullpen.
That's right. Good point. So you're paying for more than just what he does on the field is what you're saying.
Check location here. That looked pretty much center cut for Gonzalez, and picked up his 3rd hit of the night. He's just, boy, he can hit, can he? Hard to imagine how his average was down not that long ago. He didn't have a very high batting average at the All-Star break, but
there was talk of trading him too.
Really turned it on.
Our 25th sold-out crowd here tonight. 44,292 here at Busch Stadium. 44292, and here is Chase Headley.
And all of a sudden you're facing the tying run at the plate.
That's right. On the year, hitting .257. He's 1 for 3 tonight. RBI single back in the 1st. Reyes wants the ground ball. He gets it, but it's up the middle. Eckstein coming in, and he will score to make it 5-3. Almost looked as if Reyes might be able to put the glove down to at least knock it down or make a play on it, but as many pitchers will do, they'll let it go for their middle infielders. The only problem was there was no one near. See right there, a little hesitation he had?
Yeah, I think he thought maybe Ryan would be able to make that. He just couldn't quite get the glove out in time, and Ryan playing Headley to pull. And not a good outing for Denys Reyes. Headley a much better hitter from the left side. That's why Tony La Russa wanted him to bat right-handed, but it didn't work.
So Kyle McClellan coming in. It's 5-3. We've got a ball game here in the top of the 7th. 5-3 St. Louis over San Diego. Kyle McClellan into the ball game, and we've got a ball game now. This is his 48th appearance, and Kyle's been very good out of that bullpen.
He sure has, and it's a tough spot for him here against Kuzmanov. Couple runners aboard, and really the game in the balance right here. The Cardinals were able to extend the lead a bit with a run in the 4th and a run in the 6th, but the Padres have come back here in the 7th inning with 3 straight 2-out hits. David Eckstein started it. Then Adrian Gonzalez with a base hit, and Chase Headley another 2-out hit scored David Eckstein to make it 5-3. And now Kuzmanov, who has some pop, 15 homers, 67 RBIs, has a chance to do some more damage.
So 2 runners on, and the go-ahead run is at the plate. It's 5-3. Cardinals lead it.
You know, it's hard to nitpick about the job that Kyle McClellan has done. If you could pick one thing about him and say you'd like him to improve on, is his walk total.
Well, here's a question for you. Where would you use him? He's been all over the place this year. Is he your setup man? Is he your 6th inning guy? Is he coming in for one right-hander? Is he in the 8th?
You know, I like the versatility. He almost has late versatility. I mean, that's kind of an unusual position, but he can go more than one inning. So you like him to be able to come in sometimes in the 6th or 7th.
1 ball, 1 strike.
But he could also do the Russ Springer job of coming in the 8th inning and just getting a bunch of right-handers out in the 8th inning to get to Franklin.
Sure.
So I would say it depends on how well rested he is and what the situation is. And I think he's the one guy you've got to keep in multiple roles out there in the bullpen.
Here's a 1-1 pitch. Past Brendan Ryan. Holiday will come up with it. They'll wave him in. Here comes a throw. And it's offline. 5-4 now. Gonzalez scores to make it 5-4. Kuzmanov drives in his 68th RBI. 5-4 now, St. Louis.
Diving
almost there by Brendan.
Yeah, great effort right there. That would have saved a run if he'd been able to do that, but could not get a glove on it. Gonzalez able to round third and score. And fairly close play at the plate. Throw up the line a bit. Holiday does rush the ball well. Gets off a good, solid throw, but not nearly in time.
6 2/3 from the starter tonight. Pinheiro for the Cardinals. 3 runs on 7 hits. And now all he can do is watch. And again, I go back to the point of Adrian Gonzalez, runner on. Are you better off bringing in Miller instead of Reyes?
It's a question worth asking.
Here's a 1-0 pitch. Down low. 2 balls and no strikes. Tying run at second base. Go ahead run at first. Salazar is on deck. This crowd of 44,292 entertained so far, but now on the edge of their seats. That's low. 3-0.
This is the point about Kyle McClellan, about too many walks out of the bullpen. He's got good enough stuff. You'd just like to see him, even if he gives up a hit, you know, you'd rather have him give up a hit.
Here's a 3-0 pitch. Missed. Bases loaded. Go ahead run now in scoring position. The tying run is over at third base with 2 outs. So the bases are loaded for the San Diego Padres. They have a chance to bust this game wide open, and Pinheiro, all he can do is sit and watch. That hopeless feeling inside that dugout right now.
Just a moment ago, we had Albert Pujols at the plate, a 5-2 lead, him with a chance to do more damage and extend the lead. And Burke was able to get out of the Cardinals' 6th inning with just 1 run. And now things have really turned here in the 7th.
Oscar Salazar hitting .240 this year. First pitch, little breaking ball taken low, and this crowd restless now. You got to feel like the weight of the world is on McClellan's shoulders now, because he's thrown 5 straight balls.
And that strike zone gets smaller and smaller and smaller in your eyes when you're struggling to throw a strike.
That's a strike, a throw behind. Oh my goodness, he did it again. You've got to be kidding me. He does it again with the bases loaded and the game on the line. Unbelievable. Molina throws behind the runner at first with the bases loaded. Are you kidding me? The block by Pujols with his left foot. Pinheiro says thank you very much. The Cardinals lead it 5-4. Talk about a change in this game. 5-4. The Cardinals have the lead. But yet, Yadier Molina with his defense yet again a difference maker on a play that at this level, Ricky, for all intents and purposes, should never happen. Bases loaded, you're picked off at first base.
Where's he going? I mean,
right.
there's no reason for that to happen. Obviously, you've got scouts in your organization that have seen the Cardinals play all year long. Somebody has had to say at a team meeting somewhere, do not get picked off at first base. Be careful about Molina throwing behind you. Be careful about Pujols creeping up in behind you, and especially with the game on the line. And you think about what happened with the Padres and the playoffs. What year was that, Dan? 2004, I believe, where the Padres had a player picked off in the middle of a playoff game.
A couple of years ago,
I believe that was Brian Giles.
During the regular season, Molina, to win a series against San Diego in San Diego, picked off a runner at first base. So it's not like the Padres haven't seen this before. That pitch is taken inside. 1 ball, 1 strike.
But it really, the bottom line of that, as you're leading off of first base, is you've got no place to go. There's a guy on second. We look at the numbers of former Cardinal minor leaguer Luke Gregerson, who was the player to be named later in a deal with the Padres, and he was a guy that Tony La Russa, by the way, did not want to lose.
Is that right?
He saw him pitch in spring training, and when the list came out of the potential guys that the Padres could take, he shuddered when he saw that Gregerson was on that list. He did not want to lose him because he saw something in him in spring training, and obviously the Padres saw the same thing.
And still alive now for Ludwig. Well, at some point, you got to give Tony La Russa and Dave Duncan maybe just a little bit of credit. These guys might know what they're doing.
They do. Well, I mean, but obviously when you make a deal, and we talked earlier about losing Todd and Perez sometimes, and Chris Duncan, sometimes you've got to give up players to get players. And if you're in the mode to win, and the Cardinals are in the mode to win this year, then you've got to make some sacrifices.
That 2-2 pitch is hit fair down the left field line. Ludwig, as you see there, on his way to second base. And that's a leadoff double. You just get the feeling. We're only in the 7th. Little insurance is needed here tonight. 5-4 Cardinals. Well, we talk about the leg kick of a Holiday. Now compare it to Ludwig. None.
Very quiet with the bottom half. He pulls this ball right down the line. Kuzmanov, who's been all over the place at third base, makes a great effort. And our fans down the left field line have really become educated, Dan. They are letting that ball go just in case the player might have a chance to go further. They want to pick it up, but nope, not going to do it.
See, now, if that's me,
you're going after it.
Absolutely. I bring my glove. If not 2, I'm reaching for it. And then they can kick me out.
Which they might do.
Oh, there's a real good chance that's going to happen.
Or at least escort you to a less close seat. I think that's what might happen.
It might be tough finding one tonight, though. I mean, we're packed tonight.
We are.
They could send you to the upper deck, but there's nowhere to go. 1-0 here on DeRosa. 5-4 Cardinals. That's a big run out there at second base. And right here, an important at bat. You know, he showed bunt. Minimum, you want him to hit it to the right side just to advance that runner from second to third.
Gonzalez creeping in at first base. He's a very good fielding first baseman. And we'll see if he has the daring to throw the ball across the diamond a lot the way Albert does. If the ball is hit to the first baseman, he is at the cutoff there, and he can make that play. Now David Eckstein will not throw out the runner at third, Ludwig, if the ball is hit to him at second.
How did you approach these kind of situations? Would you pitch a guy inside hoping that he pull the ball and keep that runner at second base, get a ball on the ground, or how would you do it?
I think you have to be careful to not go away from your strengths. And in fact, in that situation right there, I'm wondering what would have happened if the catcher would have thrown the ball, as Ludwig was off the base there and almost interfered with by DeRosa. But I think you go to your strengths. If you try to say, okay, I'm going to just throw the ball in to make him pull the ball, it happened enough with me where they pull the ball in the left field corner and I didn't have to worry about him moving the runner over. That guy I was pitching to is now on second base. So I think at some point, if change-ups down and away are my pitch, you just got to hope he pulls that ball instead of taking it the other way.
2-2 outside.
Gregerson's a slider pitcher.
We got to start giving you some credit here.
Well, I don't need any.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
No, I'm fine.
All right.
But Gregerson's. But
you actually got people out.
Occasionally. But
okay.
Thank you, Dan, for worrying about my psyche. He's a slider pitcher, Gregerson. So he's throwing a ball that's moving away from DeRosa. But that's his strength. He's got to keep doing it.
Base hit in the left. Ludwig to third. Ludwig will score. And the Cardinals add to their lead. It's now 6-4 St. Louis. Big run scored by Ludwig and driven in by DeRosa. And let's go pitch by pitch. This is brought to you by Chevrolet.
Well, it's an interesting at-bat for DeRosa, who's actually bunting on the first pitch. Then he's not, as Gregerson misses away. Then there's a slider right down central, and he tries to bunt again. That doesn't work. Gregerson goes back with the slider, then finally hangs a slider on the inside half. And DeRosa's too good a hitter to miss a hanging slider, especially with a guy out there at second base and a chance to extend the lead. Big at-bat for Mark DeRosa.
The play of the game in many ways. Yadier Molina in the top of the seventh.
Momentum changed, didn't it?
There's no doubt. I mean, he throws down to first with the bases loaded. And that play is inexcusable for the base runner. You can't get picked off at first base with the bases loaded. That just can't happen when you're trying to come back in this game and you haven't led. You're a team that struggles. You see the big gap in left center. You can't get picked off at first.
And you think about the psyche of a team like San Diego, who plays so poorly on the road, almost 20 games below 500. When something like that happens, everybody in the dugout has this collective sigh of, here we go again.
Right.
In the Cardinal dugout, when that happens, you're thinking, oh, that's the exciting thing that's going to help us.
That's right. We're going to win this game.
It's amazing how much of this game is played between the ears.
If you're Bud Black, you take aside that particular player and you say, okay, what did you see? And whatever explanation that they give, it still doesn't add up to, there's no reason you got picked off. That can't happen.
Well, if the reason is I wasn't thinking, then that's the reason. I mean, that is a reason.
And that might happen.
But it's not a very good reason. And so what a manager always tries to do with a player is help them understand what their thought process was and rearrange that. If somebody says, hey, it was just a good play and it's no big deal, and then you got to ask again. Then you got to say, no, let's talk about that again. If the player says, look, it's my fault, there's no excuse for that, I will never let that happen again. It's a dumb play, and I just was not prepared. Then at least the manager knows he's evaluated. He's evaluated it correctly.
Right.
Not that he was thinking at the time, but at least he's evaluated the problem in the right way.
And if you're a Padre fan, you're one of the players, you're saying, all right, bases loaded, we got something going here, we got a base hit, we're on top. So it's a huge mistake. On the inside corner to Yadier Molina.
There are times I remember a time in Montreal that Ozzie Smith asked me about a game that I'd had the day before and beat up on me a little more, but he said, I said something about, I gave him a reason, and he said, that's not good enough. He looked me right in the eye, and he said, that's not good enough. It's about performance here. It's not a good excuse.
And the runner was going, and that's hit out of play.
And he basically, we're talking about, I think I said I was trying to do something. And he says, well, trying's not good enough. We're in a pennant race. And I never forgot that. I thought it was great. I mean, it was a hard thing to hear. But at some point, either
How old
the manager.
were you as opposed to Ozzie at that time? Because that could be a difference too.
I was probably 25.
Okay, so you've been in the league a little bit.
A couple of years.
Yeah. So it wasn't like a rookie coming to Ozzie saying, "What's going on here?" In the air, left field. How about that? How about that? As Molina will wind up at second base. And DeRosa, I'm sure, will be asked to go back to third. We'll see here. There he goes. He knows. He doesn't need the umpire to say it. He's been around it long enough. And Yadier almost knocked it out of the ballpark.
He hits this ball very hard. It's another hanger from Gregerson. He's got a very good slider, but he is making some mistakes with it here tonight. The Cardinals are taking advantage of it. DeRosa hit a hanging slider after the Ludwig double, and now Molina picks up the third straight Cardinal hit. And boy, great offense here in the 7th inning after giving up a couple of runs in the top of the inning.
But you have nobody out. This is big to get these 2 runs in.
Don't quit.
Yeah. We just saw that the Padres just came back to make this game interesting at 5-4. Now the Cardinals have advanced it to 6-4, and here's Brendan Ryan. Infield is drawn in for the Padres, and a big gap into left center. First pitch is popped foul and out of play. What do you think about the infield drawn in?
I heard Al and you talking about last night about the infield in with
Hitting
Matt
lanes.
Holliday, but with Matt Holliday up. It's a little different story with Brendan Ryan. You're trying to take this run away. You're trying to not let this run score just on a ground ball. You're trying to make him earn it. But what you're doing is you're turning say a 285 hitter, which Ryan is. He's probably a 320 hitter right now with the infield drawn in. He's just got more area to drive the ball through the infield. The infielders have to react quicker. They don't have as much range. But if it's right at him, DeRosa can't score. That's what you're gambling on if you are Bud Black and the Padres. This run's that important to you.
Also kept up with one of the great mustaches that we've seen this year, and that's important too.
And look at all the Padre infielders. A lot of pressure when you play infield in too, because you are right on top of the hitter.
It has to be a hard hit ball, and then you have to go to the plate and make a good throw. These guys can run at this level. That's outside, 1-2.
I think the Cardinals have figured something out, and I don't hear them talking about it, but when they play the infield in, their infielders aren't in as far as everybody else's.
I agree with that.
I think they've determined that some of our guys have good enough arms.
That's a great observation. I agree with you.
Skip Schumacher, Brendan Ryan, they play back just a bit, but they're still thinking home though.
Yeah, about 2 steps. A little bouncer up the middle, knocked down by the shortstop, but the only play is to first, to home, and save. DeRosa scores, and the Cardinals have a lead of 7-4. Cabrera, outstanding play, gets the out at first. They almost got the double play.
Yeah, DeRosa doesn't read this well off the bat as a diving shortstop throws the runner out at first base, but DeRosa with a late break, catcher tries to put his left leg out to block DeRosa from scoring, but he doesn't have the ball yet. And DeRosa slides to the back of the base, and they're talking about maybe that jump at third right now as an excellent attempt by the shortstop Cabrera, and boy, that could have been a rough turn. We talk about Yadi's throw at first base. That could have been a turn in the other direction.
So 7-4, the Cardinals lead it. They're half of the 7th, and still only 1 out and a runner at third. And Joe Thurston has grabbed a bat. He's at the on-deck circle. Here comes Bud Black. That's it for Gregerson. They'll make the change here. Another look at that play at the plate. Brendan Ryan puts it in play, choked up. DeRosa, a little hesitation, but he scores. 7-4. Padres turn it over to Joe Thatcher. This will be his 29th appearance. Opponent's hitting .250 against him, so a lefty coming in. And the Cardinals, Ricky, have a lead of 7-4. They banged out 13 hits tonight. We're only in the 7th inning. There's Hal McRae, the fine hitting coach of the Cardinals, visiting with Joe Thurston. And one of the things that they do at that point is, all right, this is what we've seen. Here's your game plan. But it's easier said than done, isn't it?
There's no question. And one of the things that Joe Thurston was thinking about the minute he was told he was going to pinch hit is, I'm probably going to face a left-hander. So he's probably thinking about that even before that conversation with Hal McRae. I'm wondering if a squeeze might not be in order here, although
would you do it with a lefty, though?
With a lefty, that would be a tough thing. But I think this is a tough matchup for Joe Thurston against this left-hander Thatcher, who looks a little bit like a cross between Mitch Williams and Gonzalez, the left-hander for Atlanta. Though he kind of, this guy's all over the place.
If you did it, though, you'd have to do it on the first pitch, maybe, because he's coming in this game cold. He's trying to get a strike. You're not going to do a pitch out on the first pitch, are you?
No, you're probably not.
And the first pitch swung on and fouled back. And so again, if you're going to squeeze, it would be with the right-hander and not the lefty.
Yeah, but the squeeze against the left-handed pitcher I always thought was a good call because he can't really see the runner very well.
His back is to that guy at left. That's right.
When's the last time we saw a squeeze, Dan?
You know, I think about the squeeze play with David Eckstein a lot because when he was here, it seemed like the Cardinals did that a lot.
So you do it with your personnel, really?
Yeah. That's low and away. I remember Hector Luna doing one. Eckstein won a game against the Cubs with a squeeze play. But the Cardinals, and it may have been the 05 season in which they squeezed more so than 04, because 04 you had Edmonds, Pujols, Larry Walker.
But think about how far back we're going to talk about a squeeze. We're not talking about last week or last month.
Most baseball people will tell you, you never squeeze with a left-hander at the plate.
They also tell you don't throw a left-hander a changeup if you're a left-handed pitcher.
That's right.
And that's not right either. I don't think there's any problem with that.
I think you bring up a great point. The fact is the pitcher has his back to the guy at third base. And Thurston swings and misses, meaning that if he's going to throw something in the vicinity of the plate,
you're going to get a little better jump off of third.
You're going to get a great jump. So if he wanted to, just throw the bat at it. 3-2. Get out of play. I don't think enough has been made, by the way, of the job that Joe did before DeRosa, before Gloss. You know, the Cardinals were looking for help at third base, and this guy was fantastic in the first month, and for the most part, held it steady. I think that's a good way to describe it. He was steady.
I agree.
Little broken bat, back to the pitcher, and there's 2 away.
I wonder still, I think about what you said, Dan, about the right-handed hitter, left-handed hitter. I wonder if that's overrated. I mean, why is that big a deal to squeeze with a left-handed batter? Or not to squeeze with a left-handed batter?
And the obvious explanation would be, well, the catcher's there. He can see that runner coming down on the third base line, and at the last second he can say, hey, throw it out here. I'm ready for it. Get it out of the zone to where this guy can't put the bat on the ball. But I go back to what you're saying is that we see a lot of lefties. They don't pay attention to the runner at third.
Right.
And when they come to the plate, there's not even a recognition of the catcher. You know, they're looking somewhere else before they even focus on going to the plate. So unless you have a pitch out going, it might be a move that you think about with a left-handed pitcher on the mound.
Well, the move I'm kind of wondering about right now, I'm trying to think through Tony La Russa's work here in the 7th inning and wondering why Khalil Green just didn't hit for Joe Thurston. Once the pitcher was announced, more important to have the right matchup with a guy on third in less than 2 outs, and you bring him in to pinch hit for Schumacher. You almost would rather say keep Schumacher in and just go Green Schumacher instead of Thurston Green.
Good point. 2 outs and runners at first and third, and now Kobe Rasmus gets a chance for the Cardinals. Rasmus tonight, single, a run scored. He's doubled back in the third. He's grounded out. He's also singled in the 6th. He's had a good night. 3 for 4.
I know teams don't like to do that much anymore, Dan, because their benches are so short. You don't like to have a pinch hitter and then pinch hit for the pinch hitter when they counter with a reliever, but sometimes you got to do it.
So 2 outs, runners at first and third, and Rasmus a swing and a miss a little bit late there. By the way, I just got a text message from Larry Walker, who's watching tonight. He said, forget about the squeeze. I want a left-handed catcher. Spoken like a true Canadian.
That's right. We brought him up in the telecast. No wonder, he texted us.
How good was Larry Walker when he got to St. Louis, and what he meant, not so much, don't look at the numbers. His numbers were good, but what he meant to the jolt of this franchise, the fan base, and inside that clubhouse.
You're talking about a 5-tool player. He wasn't far away from being a 5-tool player in his younger days.
Time called. Here he comes. Out at the plate. They almost got it. Oh, Molina was coming home. How about that? Yachty from third to the plate, and he almost scored. Hustling all the way. Almost snuck in there. 7-4. Cardinals baseball on Fox Sports Midwest is brought to you by Budweiser, who thanks you for being a designated driver, by Bank of America, Cardinals banking only at Bank of America, and by Ameristar, more casino, more fun. Billy Terry is watching tonight along with his cousin Billy Perry. We got Billy Terry and Billy Perry, and they're watching tonight on Fox Sports Midwest. And here's Jason Mott.
Jason Mott would like to get things going in a positive direction. He's had a couple of bad outings in a row. His ERA up over 6. There's no questioning the stuff of this converted catcher, Jason Mott. Everybody'd love to see him do well, but his fastball seems to have straightened out a bit, but the velocity sure hasn't changed. He's still throwing high 90s.
Tony La Russa throwing him back out there, and there's a ground ball taken by Albert Pujols.
I like that, by the way. Throw him back out there.
And if you're Jason Mott, if you asked him, okay, you gave up a home run last night, what do you want to do? He's going to say, please put me back out there. I don't care if I'm not rested. I don't care if I'm my best stuff. Get me back out on that mound right now, because I need to figure things out. Big Cardinal fan Dave Woods watching tonight and celebrating birthday number 65. So happy birthday to Dave Woods, who never misses a ball game here on Fox Sports Midwest. This is Nick Hundley. 1-0 pitch, hit in the air. Shallow right, who wants it? Ludwig is there. I think the best guy I ever saw deke a runner, Larry Walker. I mean, that guy was so good on a ball that was over his head, but then for us as broadcasters, we're watching guys go back on a ball. You think you got a judge on it. Okay, he's going to get that, and Tony La Russa's out to get Mott, but all of a sudden Larry Walker would deke me. I think, well, he's going to catch this, and it turned into a single, which should have been a triple or a double.
And one of the things that proved is you text Dan, he'll mention you 3 times in the telecast.
Miller is coming up. Kanan and Shayna Walker are watching tonight and enjoying Cardinals baseball with Larry Walker. Thank you very much, Ricky. Larry Walker, the former Cardinal, who was outstanding. What is that, 5 mentions?
That's
Make
5
it 6.
mentions.
Larry Walker, Larry Walker, Larry Walker. He's one of my favorites.
Hey, he's worth mentioning. So's Trevor Miller, by the way. That young fan enjoying.
I'll let you answer to Larry
Cardinal
next time
baseball.
you see him.
Hey, I'm glad to mention his name.
Me personally, I wish he was in that dugout.
Wouldn't that be something? Well, there's
Look,
a couple of guys.
The guy could communicate to people. He was a great player and one of the best outfielders we've seen. So why not teach the game?
And that's not out of the question somewhere down the road, I wouldn't think, for a guy like Larry Walker.
Well, he told me it's questionable. He wants to spend time with his family, and I can't blame him. There's a strike to Tony Gwynn with 2 outs and the Cardinals leading 7-4. So this is why you leave your lefty the guy that's really good at getting lefties out. Here's Glenn, fly ball into shallow center. How about Trevor Miller? What a year he has had here in St. Louis. Cardinals rolling tonight. It's 7-4.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the St. Louis Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. And it's Cardinals 7-4. Bottom of the 8th inning. We have a new Padres pitcher, our 5th of the evening, and it's Ryan Webb. High ERAs in his 7th game, as the Padres have really seen a changeover in their roster, in their bullpen, in their starting lineup, in their starting rotation. This is really a different team than we saw last year.
I thought it was interesting what Skip Schumacher said concerning the 04, the 05, the 06 teams, of which he was not an everyday player. And then you look at this team, and he compared this team and compared those teams. He said this one might be better.
Interesting.
What would you say?
I would say so.
Really?
I would think it's more solid right now. I like those two guys, by the way, in the top of the rotation. Wainwright and Carpenter.
Help. That helps. You know, Larry Walker's little girls might
not like that.
You know, disagree with you. Kanan and Shayna, they might say, Ricky, what have you been watching over the last 5 years? You know, my dad was a really good player and did things the right way, and he was part of those great teams. What are you talking about, Ricky? So what would you say to them?
First of all, I'd say I appreciate you watching the Larry Walker show, which we used to call Cardinal Baseball. And no disrespect to...
Wait a minute, is that a shot at me?
Their dad?
That's a shot at me, I think.
I think this Cardinal team has got some firepower. I think Holiday, in some ways, is the Larry Walker that the Cardinals brought over. The guy who's just going to give a lot of presence in the clubhouse. He's going to drive in a lot of runs, and he's going to be somebody that nobody wants to pitch to late in the game. I think that's the way Larry Walker was. That's the way Todd Holiday is. Matt Holiday is.
There's a shot at me. Here's Albert.
Okay.
You and I are going to talk, Horton. I'm telling you right now.
I can't wait for that conversation. I might even listen.
Ryan Holtman is watching tonight as that pitch is taken outside. They're watching from Davenport, Iowa, which is home of the single-A affiliate of the Cardinals, the Quad City River Bandits. And Ryan Holtman is involved with the Blue Jackets of Columbus. Met his dad a few years ago, and Ryan every year. Good people, big Cardinal fans. Glad they're tuned in tonight. Pujols grounds out, and here is Matt Holliday.
Seen a little range out of that shortstop, haven't we? A couple of plays up the middle. That ball hit right over the bag.
Hardy's prime cut of the game is Matt Holliday. I'm not talking to you anymore, Ricky.
Success.
Things are looking up. That's what the truck just said. It's Tom Mee, our fine director. Thanks a lot, Tom.
He's the best.
7-4 as the Cardinals lead it. Here's the 0-1 pitch, and Holliday is swinging a miss at a pitch that was in the dirt.
If you happen to see the ball that Vladimir Guerrero hit
how about that yesterday?
He actually
off the ground
hit a ball that literally one-hopped him. He'll swing at anything, and he did.
No, he literally will swing at anything.
And he had a base hit on a ball that hit in front of the plate.
Do you know that Vladimir played for the Expos and so did Larry Walker? Sorry. Go ahead, Ricky. You're biting your tongue over there.
I think I played against Larry Walker, by the way. I think he was still playing.
He was part of that great team before the strike in Montreal. Little chopper left side. Gloved by the shortstop, and we head to the ninth. All Cardinals here tonight at 7-4. Coming up, it's U.S. Cellular, Cardinals Live, and Pinheiro 6 2/3 here tonight. We'll talk about him. Also, don't test Yachty. Difference in this game, bases loaded. He throws behind the runner at first, picks him off yet again. And Tony's take as well. Father and son enjoying baseball here at the ballpark. Is it, all the shots we've taken here tonight from Tommy, is there a better one than that one right there?
And you love that. You got their matching sunglasses. I'm sure Dad was explaining the game as they went along, although at his age he probably understands it pretty well. And they're here for a hard 9 too, Dan. They didn't quit. They stayed long enough to watch Ryan Franklin pitch the 9th inning, and he has been outstanding. 28 out of 30 in save opportunities, and his control this year has been impeccable.
And that's the key, isn't it?
Really is. He's all about command.
So the Cardinals lead it 7-4. We're in the 9th, and the first pitch taken for a ball right on cue. Here is Cabrera. That pitch is in there for a strike. Two strikes now. And that pitch outside, 2-2. Just missed inside. Efficiency when you talk about Ryan Franklin.
Not many walks, not many 3-2 counts. He has one here with Cabrera leading off the 9th inning, but most of the outings for Franklin have been very ho-hum, Dan. We've seen closers create a little interest in the 9th inning, but Franklin's been all about 1, 2, 3 sit down, but he does walk Cabrera leading off the 9th inning. Very rare leadoff walk.
That is rare to say the least. He has been so good this year when you talk about Ryan Franklin. So 7-4, the Cardinals have a lead and a leadoff walk.
Big hole on the right side for David Eckstein. The way he hits the ball the other way,
I agree.
not sure
I like that.
I don't like where Joe Thurston's playing. Now, Joe is not deciding to play there, so we're not picking on him. He's told where to play. But the way David Eckstein likes to shoot the ball the other way, with Albert holding the runner on first, I'm not really caring about a double play here. Trying to keep hitting lanes away from David Eckstein. That's just too big a hole on the right side.
So here comes a 1-0 pitch to David. 7-4, St. Louis leads it. That's inside. The other thing too, Ricky, is when Franklin would miss, he doesn't miss by much.
Right.
It's barely outside, barely inside. 2 balls and no strikes. That's a strike, 2-1.
We know that there are Cardinal viewers that will often say, oh, you guys jinxed him, but I can promise you.
Kidding me.
I can promise you we have no effect.
I've never heard that.
We have no effect on what's going on out there. None.
Franklin can get that double play too. This is hit in the air. Shallow right. Thurston out, makes the catch. 1 away. Big out there, the first out here in the top of the 9th. Their player of the game is Yadier Molina. And we say player of the game, but really he had probably the play of the game. This is brought to you by Budweiser. Back in the 7th, bases loaded. Molina. Unbelievable.
Well, picking off Venable in that situation, yeah, he only had 1 hit in this game, but that play really turned it around for the Cardinals. Just an unbelievable defensive play. Bases loaded situation, 2 outs, and he has the ability to pick a runner off of first base, and he was actually behind in the count too. It might have been 2-0 on the hitter, so huge play by Molina. It was actually a toss-up. We were considering Larry Walker for the player of the game, but we gave it to Yadier Molina.
Double play could end this game. The Cardinals have turned a double play tonight. That pitch is a strike on the outside corner. Very dangerous hitter. You throw him outside and you see he's 3 for 6, 3 doubles against Ryan Franklin. We've talked about it last night against Wainwright. Earlier tonight, he's able to take that pitch to the opposite field and not only take it that way, but hit it for power.
With power, you bet.
Here's a 1-1 pitch. This is power into right. But the catch made.
Wow.
Ball was tattooed.
Cardinals
Franklin,
very,
a good jump.
Yeah, very fortunate that that had topspin on it too, Dan. It was one of those balls he hit with some overspin. Franklin might have gotten away with one there.
Either way, it's an out. So here we go. You talked about this crowd earlier, getting on their feet, making noise here at Busch Stadium the last few weeks. Here they go. Chase Headley could be the potential final out, as the Cardinals could win this series here tonight and set up a sweep here tomorrow afternoon. Runner from first takes second. That's no steal on the play. Fielder's indifference. Little bit low. One ball, 1 strike with 2 outs. Here comes a 1-1 pitch with a 7-4 lead. Low. This is not a shot at Ryan Franklin, but we anticipate about 7 pitches and he's out of the inning. That's how good he's been this year.
Well, he has to work a little bit more for this one. Nice to have a 3-run cushion, though. Those 2 runs in the 7th were huge.
He's been so good this year. In the air, left field. And the Cardinals win it 7-4. Matt Holliday, another home run here tonight. Albert Pujols contributed as well. Ryan Franklin, a familiar scene with Yadier Molina at the back end of games. The Cardinals win it by the score of 7-4. They can sweep the Padres tomorrow afternoon. The postgame show with Jim and Ricky is coming up next.